Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We'll call the January 14, 2016 regularly scheduled meeting for the Plaquemines Parish Council as the sovereign governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to order at 1 p.m. The time now is 1:01. The machine is open for roll call.
I don't know, which one do you have?
I have Kirk. Oh, the projector. Ryan?
No, they're looking for the, you found the right one?
You got it?
Oh, got it.
So what else is going on, Stan?
Same old thing, digging in there 'cause they can't do all those jobs. It's all normal.
There you go.
I was telling them I want to come down there and do it. Do that boat thing, get off the levee. Everything is tied up.
Nice. You look too high.
Remind me to come play with that one day and see what fits there the right way.
Is that better, guys? Everyone can see? Let the record reflect there were 8 sitting council members. Councilman Charlie Burt is absent today. Will we, please rise for the prayer. We take this moment to acknowledge Almighty God and thank Him for our bountiful blessings, especially for the parish natural resources. We give thanks to God for our brave and courageous men and women in our military who daily risk their lives to protect our precious freedom, and we pray for our world leaders to know how to attain world peace. We pray this government body, comprised of both council and administration, will always serve our parish with honesty, humility, and equality to all. And as this government body gathers here today, we pray for the wisdom to know right from wrong and the courage to do which is right. Amen. Amen. Please turn around for the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll move to item 2 on the agenda, executive session. There is none. Move to item 3, status report by Executive Report Director, Mr. Sanders.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and members of the audience. I am Sandy Sanders, Executive Director of Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District. Follows is my Executive Director's report for the reporting period 11 December to 14 January of this year. First item on our agenda is the office relocation. I'm here to tell you today that there was no disruption in business. We have closed on the new site. Our comms are up, telephones are in, and with the exception of our vehicles still back at our former site and living out a few boxes, housekeeping items, we're up and running at the new site. I also attended a meeting prior to this reporting period regarding a mitigation bank called the Jesuit Bend Mitigation Bank. This mitigation bank is obviously in Jesuit Bend. They have over 280 acres available for mitigation, and I have contacted a future client of ours, Venture Global, and they are very excited about it, particularly with the fact that it is right there in the zip code where they are looking to put their project. And so they are engaged with Mitigation Bank, and it will be their first client if it's consummated. During this reporting period, my deputy, John Pennison, and the parish president, we attended the rail relocation meeting at the RPC that Walter Brooks heads up. And I'm happy to say that progress is on track. The environmental assessment is scheduled to be done in June, and there's no problem with meeting that deadline. They are probably 99.9% certain of the exact route that the rail will take, but these things do take a long time, and you got to go through the bureaucracies. But it's well on its way, and it's looking very good. Lastly, we had a meeting with Enbridge. Enbridge Company is one of Canada's largest oil and gas companies and also pipeline company. Enbridge has made a strategic decision to build a complex on the Gulf Coast. So I reached out to them. We've had a series of meetings. In our last meeting that we had, we are a finalist with a location up in the Petroplex. We have a advantage over them, a maritime advantage. They do have a pipeline advantage of existing structures, but we are coming back to them in February, and they will be bringing down oil from Canada for export. And I'm sure that folks here probably saw the big news for the first time in 40 years since the Arab Oil Embargo Act of 1975. The United States shipped out their first tanker ship of oil that was mined here in the United States. So this is going to open up a huge market. It is the topic du jour at the Petrochem conference that I attended, and all the byproducts that come with that oil, particularly the gases. This is the big expectations that ports are looking for, and again, it's the needed infrastructure that will move that not only the oil but the gases. So stay tuned. Hopefully, I'll have some good news. We can score Enbridge. It'll be huge for export, many ships. We have 5 items on the agenda for consideration today. First, I am requesting the withdrawal and reintroduction of item 6B. It is a resolution that authorizes me as the executive director to enter into an agreement with U.S. Consults. Next, there is an ordinance to rescind and annul ordinance number 15-118 that deals with the agenda items to allow for public hearings. There are 3 resolutions that are closely related. One appoints a port chairperson. The second appoints the port vice chair individual. And lastly, the third one appoints the members of the port committee. Mr. Chairman, subject to your questions, the questions of the board, or observations or questions from the audience, that concludes my report.
Thank you for your report, Mr. Sanders. Are there any questions from the table? Administration? Audience?
Yes, sir.
Oh, you said you went to the board meeting about the railroad. About a year ago, the council gave some money to this to do a study. Has the study been concluded yet?
No, sir. That is the report, the environmental report that is scheduled to be due in June, and it is going to be on time. And we made a contribution, as did the railroad, the Plaquemines Parish, and Jefferson Parish in Gretna.
Okay. 'Cause I hope this railroad doesn't impact some historic communities in this. I have to really look at, because last I heard it was going to impact some historic communities, and I'm very much against that.
I understand, and I can tell you that the routes that they are on the relocation do not.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Henry, just to add a little bit more information to the conversation is that I've been in communication with Mr. Bach, and he have assured me that it's not going to have a tremendous impact on the communities of Ironton and Murderboro.
What
But,
about Oakville? When you
well-
reroute that track,
Well, I can tell you only with the discussion
Yeah.
that we've had. And I'm watching that situation closely, paying a lot of attention to it.
okay.
Thank you, Ms. Horn. Anyone else from the audience? With that, we'll move on to item 4, bids and advertisements. There are none. Item 5, introduction of ordinance and resolutions. Mr. Bartholomew? Mr. Black?
Yeah, I have one on behalf of Councilmember Burt. A resolution authorizing the executive director of the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District to enter into an agreement with U.S. Consults LLC, USC, or otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Juno?
Go ahead, man.
Mr. Russo?
A resolution to establish permanent schedule for the regular meeting locations of Plaquemines Parish Council as the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor Terminal District as otherwise provided with respect thereto.
Thank you. I have none. Ms. Thelma?
I have none.
I have none, sir. And Ms. Williams? Okay. We will move to item 6, ordinance and resolutions on the second reading and final passage. And before we do that, I would like to turn to the council secretary and just have a friendly reminder of a rule that's been in place.
Okay, this can be found in the Code of Ordinances, Rule 18 of the Plaquemines Parish Council as the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District. Any person shall be entitled to a reasonable hearing on any proposed ordinance or resolution. The person recognized shall speak only on the subject being discussed and shall use proper and respectable language. Any person who after having been called to order again varies from the subject being discussed shall be required to take his seat and not permit to speak further. No person shall speak more than once on any proposed ordinance or resolution except as provided in Rule 11, and each speaker shall be limited to 5 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Toops. The rules are set forth on the back table. I hope we can adhere to them. I've been in this chair before, so I know how it works. So please keep your comments completely on the issue at hand and limit it to 5 minutes. Okay, Ms.
With
Barbara,
that,
you want-
said, Mr. Chairman, we're gonna wanna, I know personally, and I have no issue with the message that was just sent out, but I wanna make sure that we be fair in our directives.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Item 6C.
Well, 6B will be deferred at Mr.
No, withdraw it.
Withdrawn, I'm sorry, at Mr. Burt's request. Can we move to 6C?
An ordinance to rescind, annul, and set aside ordinance number 15-118, and to add language to item 6A to allow for public hearings and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Russo, you offering?
Yes, I offer.
Ms. Russo's offering, next for a second. Second by Mr. Juno. Mr. Russo?
Yes, what this does, it changes the way, we have changed our rule recently, and we see items that appear on the agenda in duplicate form under a public hearing section. So what we are doing now is changing the rule to where that language for public hearing section will be listed on the agenda, and the items will be listed only once on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Russo. Any questions from the table? Administration? Audience? Machine is open on 6C. And, okay, the ordinance is granted 8-0. We move to item 6D.
A resolution electing the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District Chairperson for 2016 and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
This is offered on behalf of Mr. Burt. He asks us to move on this legislation. I'll offer and ask for a second. Second by Ms. Williams. Any questions?
Yeah, hey, read the ordinance out to the public.
She just read,
Get up there and act that all the time, man.
excuse me?
We read the ordinances out to the public.
She read the ordinance out.
No, she didn't.
A
She read what's on
resolution,
the agenda. She didn't read
Yeah,
the
I would-
ordinance that you had.
I would agree, I would agree with Mr. Henry. Let's
Okay,
just,
okay.
we have three ordinances.
It's
I'm
about
sorry,
a
res-
dictatorship.
hold on, Mr. Henry.
Mr. Henry?
I have three resolutions, we have three resolutions back to back. I do agree with you. Let's state the names of the individuals that we're voting on, that's all.
Y'all want to hide everything, man.
Okay.
Put it to the public. Let the people decide.
all right, you want me to read the whole, I'll read the whole
Of
ordinance.
course.
Go ahead, Ms. Barber, read the whole ordinance.
An ordinance to rescind, annul, and set aside ordinance number 15-118.
No, no,
and-
no.
No, D.
Which one?
6D.
Oh, I'm sorry.
6D. I'm sorry.
Whereas the duties of the council chairperson as chair of the council and chair of the vice chair of the council is the sole governing authority of the Whereas the duties of the council chairperson as chair of the council and chair of the council as the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District are now quite demanding and lead to a lack of focus and time required for each position. And whereas the parish council decides to separate the duties and responsibilities of the chairperson of the parish council and the chairperson of the parish council serving as the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District in order to provide better focus and to have more time available to meet the demand of each position with different council members serving in each position annually. And whereas the name of Councilmember Black has been placed in nomination and seconded.
Okay.
I'm fine with it, Mr. Black.
Thank you. And offered in second. Is there any other questions? Administration? Audience? The machine is open. And the resolution is granted 8-0. We'll move to item 6E.
A resolution electing the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District Vice Chairperson for the 2016 and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
And can
Let me
read the
continue
whereas?
reading it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Whereas the duties of the council vice chairperson as vice chair of the council and vice chair of the council as the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District are now quite demanding and lead to a lack of focus and time required for each position. And whereas the parish council desires to separate the duties and responsibilities of the vice chairperson of the parish council and the vice chairperson of the parish council serving as the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District in order to provide better focus and to have more time available to meet the demand of each position with different council members serving in each position annually. And whereas the name of Councilmember Burt has been placed in nomination and seconded.
I offered and asked for a second. Second by Mr. Edgecombe. Any questions from the table? Administration? Audience? Machine is open. All right, we'll move to item, oh, I'm sorry. The resolution is passed 8-0. We will move to item 6F.
A resolution appointing the members of the Port Committee of the Plaquemines Parish Council for 2016 and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Whereas ordinance number 11-5 adopted January 13, 2011 created the Port Committee and the Port Committee officers. Now therefore be it resolved by the Plaquemines Parish Council that the following named council members are hereby selected as members of the Port Committee of the Plaquemines Parish Council effective January 14, 2016, with their terms of office to expire December 31, 2016, or until such time as a majority of the parish council may deem it necessary to select new members of the committee. Councilmember Black, Councilmember Trufant Salvant, Councilmember Bartholomew, Councilmember Burt.
I'll offer and ask for a second. Second by Mr. Edgecombe. Any questions from the table? Administration? Audience? Machine is open on 6F. Oops. Okay. The machine is open on 6F. resolution is granted, 8-0. We move to item 7, new business. 7A, introductions of resolutions, wherein suspension is sought, we have none. 7B, matters of public hearing pursuant to Article 6, Section 6.01E of the Parish Charter, we have none. Move to 7C, update by Mr. Eric Shumstrom.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Mr. President. I'd like to start off by saying thank you all. 2016 marks the beginning of the 8th year I'm representing the Port Harbor and Terminal District. It's been pretty fun looking back to see how the port's grown and what we've done in Baton Rouge and here in Plaquemines Parish. So, to start the report, Monday I attended the inauguration of Governor John Bell Edwards. Started with the inaugural mass, followed by the speech. As far as the legislature goes, both chambers were sworn in. Committee assignments for the Senate have been appointed. The Transportation Committee seems to be a good group that we can work with as far as port-related matters go. Also, the Revenue and Fiscal Affairs Committee, which is where the capital outlay budgets will be going, seems pretty friendly also, providing there's actual money that the state can give out. The House, I understand, will be putting forth their committee assignments and chairmanships toward the end of this month, and you'll be updated on that as that information comes in. There have been some pre-filed bills starting to come for the beginning of the regular session, which starts the first part of March. Nothing eminent to the board right now. Word on the street is that the governor is looking at making a call for a special session beginning somewhere around February 16th, which would be, I think, the week after Mardi Gras. That also is not determined in stone yet, but a lot of that should be fiscal and tax matters, and I'll be looking at that to see what kind of stuff will affect both the local government and anything we've done with the port. So far, that concludes my report. If y'all have any questions.
Any questions from the table?
Just one question. Have you heard of any items that may be included in the call that would affect us as far as revenue streams?
No, sir.
I'm gonna ask.
Nothing yet. They're being very tight about it.
Nothing coming down the pipeline?
No. I know he is speaking at the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, well, probably wrapped up. He spoke there at their general membership meeting this afternoon for lunch. I don't know if anything was put out there, but I'm sure I'll get word going back or any news articles coming out late this afternoon. I'll be happy to forward along to you.
Okay, my question, Mr. Chairman, has nothing to do with anything you just said, Mr. Sundstrom. But I was just thinking, in the future, will your office have any ability to perhaps, like with the president being in, President of the United States is in Baton Rouge, so
Ma'am.
close to us, would you be able to pull any type of strings to get this council or for them to be in attendance or something of that?
That may be a little further than my reach. They did have public tickets available.
Okay,
They went quick. I can stretch probably as far as the governor's office, but other than that,
okay. Question just came to mind when
yeah,
you started
I understand.
speaking.
And
So,
and that
thank you.
is the first time he's come to Baton Rouge, and I think I made it out just by the skin of my teeth with traffic and everything this evening.
Okay.
But
All right.
and then that also reminds me, with the new administration, should anybody feel the need to meet any of the new department heads or so forth, please give me a holler and I'll arrange any of those meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly,
Thank you, Aaron.
certainly.
Any other questions? Administration, audience?
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. We'll move to item 8, approval of the November 19, 2015 budget hearings and December 10th, 2015 meeting minutes. I'll offer and ask for a second. Second by Mr. Edgecombe. Any questions on the meeting, on the minutes? The machine is open for the minutes. And the minutes approved at 8-0. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. A motion by
Now
Mr.
second.
Mr. Edgecombe, second by Mr. Trufant.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I think we were on here for an ordinance approval today.
That's the council meeting. This is the port meeting.
I'm sorry.
There was a motion made by Mr. Edgecombe, second by Mrs. Salvant. The machine is open on the adjournment. Adjournment is 8-0, and we are adjourned at 1:27. And we will move to the meeting of the regularly scheduled meeting for the parish council for January 14th, 2016. The machine is open for roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let the record reflect there are 8 sitting council members, and Mr. Burt is absent. Okay. We will move to, I want to move quickly to item 6B, proclamations. We have 2 proclamations today we'd like to give out. Ms. Barber, would you read the first one, please?
Sure.
This one?
A proclamation proclaiming January 14th, 2016 as the Frugia Family Day in Plaquemines, in the parish of Plaquemines.
I think Ms. Williams, will you read the proclamation, please?
Yes, I will.
Can I'll offer it? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead and offer it.
I'll offer.
I'll ask for unanimous second. Everyone? Okay. Go ahead and read it, Ms.
A proclamation proclaiming January 14, 2016 as the Frugia Family Day in Plaquemines Parish. Whereas the Frugia family has played an integral part in the collection and preservation of historical items from Fort Jackson, and whereas even before the parish owned the fort, or the ring levee at the river was constructed to keep the river water from going into the fort, Mr. Sidney Frugia, along with his son Stanley Frugia, would wade through water, snakes, and other hazards to collect artifacts. And whereas in 1960, Fort Jackson was donated to the parish of Plaquemines, and Judge Leander Perez dedicated a room in the fort to house the artifacts. And whereas Miss Sarah was asked by the judge to work in the museum as a curator to watch over the collection the Frugias had accumulated over the years. And whereas Miss Sarah accepted the position when the fort opened in 1962 and continued to work as curator for over 50 years. And whereas Miss Sarah and her entire family dedicated thousands of hours over the years to protecting and adding to the collection. Whereas Sidney and Sarah's daughter Susan Frugia Donald volunteers 8 to 10 hours a day in the museum alongside her mother, greeting the visitors and sharing the rich history and culture of Plaquemines Parish and Fort Jackson. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Plaquemines Parish Council, represented by its duly authorized chairman Kirk M. Lapine, and by concurrence with the parish president Amos Cormier Jr., representing the Plaquemines Parish government, that it hereby declares January 14, 2016 as the Frugia Family Day in the parish of Plaquemines.
It's been offered
Sarah?
by, let me vote on it. It's been offered by Councilman Williams, unanimously second by us. So the machine is open on the proclamation first. And the proclamation's granted 8-0. Ms. Williams?
I would just like to personally thank Miss Sarah, Susan, and their entire family. If you haven't been down to see our newly opened museum, I would encourage everyone to get down there. We have visitors that come from near and far, Miss Sarah said, and they're amazed at what they see. It's a beautiful sight. So I think it's worth an hour drive down south. Miss Sarah, would you come up, please? You and Susan, and anyone else in your family? They also have souvenirs in the museum as well.
Would you come to the microphone, please? Thank you.
Yes.
Welcome, Miss Sarah. Can you just give us a little bit about yourself?
Oh,
No, it's okay.
well, I think just about everybody knows Fort Jackson, and we have dedicated a lot of good work, but there's been a lot of good people besides the Frugier family that has helped make the Fort Jackson Museum what it is. And we thank everybody for helping and for appreciating what we have done.
Well, personally, Miss Sarah, thank you for all the hard work you've done. And without embarrassing you, I don't really know how long you've been down there, but it's been a while.
Yes,
But
it has.
thank you for your dedication and your hard work for the fort.
Well, we have certainly appreciated it, and we thank y'all for acknowledging it.
Okay. Anyone else?
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
Want to get a picture?
Yeah, if they'll come up and
Miss
accept their...
Miss Sarah, can you come up and we'll accept the proclamation? Come right through the doors here.
The administration would also like to extend a warm welcome and congratulations for Miss Sarah and her family for all the work that they've done, for the countless time that they've put in without being rewarded monetarily, and of course going back to the fort in the 60s and the work they did to get it in the condition it is today. And I have to say that when we go to Washington, we have Senator Cassidy working on trying to, with their efforts, to put Fort Jackson, Fort St. Philip, and the Lower Mississippi Historical Valley Park System. And we will have visitors coming in February to go down to Fort Jackson and to review it so we can get as much information as possible to help Senator Cassidy and making this a reality for Fort Jackson and Fort St. Philip. And the reason why that we can't call it the Fort Jackson Park is because there's another fort in the United States named Fort Jackson, so we have to call it the Lower Mississippi Historical Park System. But thank you, Ms. Sarah.
Can we get a picture? Thank you. All right, we'll have another proclamation under item 6B2. Miss, can you read that, Miss Barbara?
A proclamation proclaiming January 15, 2016 as Leslie Scobell Day in the parish of Plaquemines. Whereas Mr. Leslie Scobell was born in Plaquemines Parish and lived here until 1963. And whereas he then went on to spend most of his time between Houston and southwest Louisiana until he moved back to southeast Louisiana, where he now resides in Metairie. And whereas Mrs. Scobell decided to write a book in order for his family to have some idea of what his life was like and what life was like in Plaquemines Parish. And whereas the book entitled My Life in the Land of O's, Oysters, Oranges, and Oil covers everything from the stages of his life to his days with the judge. Whereas the Plaquemines Parish government would like to congratulate Mr. Scobell for writing a great book reflecting on his life and life in the land of O's here in Plaquemines Parish. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Plaquemines Parish Council, represented by its duly authorized chairman, Kirk M. Lapine, and by concurrence of the parish president, Amos Cormier, Jr., representing the Plaquemines Parish government, that it hereby declares January 15, 2016 as Leslie Scobell Day in the parish of Plaquemines.
I'll offer and ask for unanimous second. Got it. The machine is open on the proclamation. And the proclamation is granted 8-0. Mr. Cormier, would you like to take the mic?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of Councilman Edgecombe and myself, we wanted to recognize Leslie Scobell and his family and friends that are with him today. He wrote an autobiography about himself, and it contains his personal, the professionalism, and also the political atmosphere of the area of Buras. And it's called The Land of O's, and it stands for oysters, oranges, and oil. And of course, Leslie has been quite successful in his career. The book is 141 pages. He was kind enough to send me a copy, and I couldn't put it down. So I would strongly urge anyone who's interested in looking back and, of course, learning from history, because that's what we want to encourage. That's why I wanted to have a proclamation and talking with Councilman Edgecombe, because we've had biographies written about people in Plaquemines Parish, but that's from the eyes of someone else and what they determined took place. But when we get an autobiography, that's from the heart and soul of someone who actually lived there. The only other autobiography that comes to my mind would be Dr. Ballou's book, which I'm sure many people here are probably not familiar with, and it was a book that in some areas it says that it has been kept secret. But at any rate, so today we want to recognize Leslie Scobell. I think E.L. Scobell is here with him, and of course his friend Wanda Fickovich, to come forward and be recognized and to say a few words about the things that we can learn, because history repeats itself. The names change, but human nature never changes. And so if you read this book, you're going to see the same problems that occurred then that we hope to draw on, oil crisis back in the 50s and so forth. But before I go further, let me call them forward to come up and say a few words. Leslie Scobell.
Leslie, would you come to the podium, please? Okay. And any other family members, please come up.
Now you see who Leslie Scobell is. I was born and raised in Plaquemines Parish. I was asked to leave in 1963 by a gentleman by the name of Leander Perez. And that's how I got out of Plaquemines Parish. I got transferred to West Texas, working for Getty Oil Company. And from there, I worked my way back to Louisiana. But I never did get back to Plaquemines Parish, much to my regret. Because when I left Buras, I guess I cried a lot, because I didn't think it was fair that I should leave. But that happens, and you take what comes. But anyhow, I've been gone since 1963, and been to Plaquemines quite a few times. Even stopped one day to visit the judge, and that wasn't too pleasant, because he had just given the reins over to Shallon and Lee, his sons, and they weren't going too good. So I stopped to see him and had a long visit with him, and found out that he wanted his sons to more or less handle the affairs of the parish as he had done for 25 or 30 years, but it just didn't happen. But the judge, I worked with him for 2 years, and he was a very intelligent man, and it was really something to be in his office to see all the dignitaries, I guess you could call them dignitaries, politicians that were coming to him for help. And he was considered probably the greatest constitutional lawyer in the state, in the United States. And I got to meet several senators and representatives from the South, and they all had the same thing to say about him, that he was a genius, but in the wrong way sometimes. But I worked with him for 2 years, and after about 2 years, I found out that he wasn't going to do what we needed to be done. So I told him I'd have to separate my services from him, which I did, and then formed a political party, like a fool, to oppose him. And we did that. We were a bunch of young guys from around the Buras area. We found enough men to complete a ticket, and we supported Chet Morrison for governor at that time. And we didn't do very well with votes. I believe we managed to get maybe 25 or 30% of the vote, and of course that wasn't worth anything. But he took it out on me, I guess, more than anybody else, because I had been raised in his family. My dad's had one sister that was married to his brother, and he had another sister that was married to his nephew. So I'd grown up with the Perez family, and I guess he took it out on me for opposing him and causing some, I guess, hardships in the family. So he blackballed me. I could not get a job in Plaquemine Parish. I tried every oil company that was operating, or any service company, but I could not get a job. So I moved to New Orleans. I lost my house, I lost my car, and I wound up working on the riverfront in New Orleans for a while. And then I worked my way away from that area. Then moved back to Buras, and had one gentleman who was working for Getty Oil Company, was a friend of mine, and he said, "I think I'll have a job for you." So went down there, took the test, got the job, and went to work on November the 20th, 1963. Yeah, 63. And was working there for a while, and there was some problems going on in the Venice area because of an influx of, I guess, oil workers that were coming in. And there was a lot of trouble, a lot of crime. So I went to several of the ministers in that area to see what we could do to kind of get the parish to do something about the crime, because it was pretty bad after 1962, 63. So I wrote a petition myself, but we had a good friend in Chet Morrison in New Orleans, and he was also part of the Kennedy administration at that time. So we went to Chet to check to see what he thought about our petition, and he thought it was good. He said, "I'll go ahead and handle it whatever way you want me to." So he sent a copy of the petition to Bobby Kennedy. They had their blessings because Kennedy didn't like Perez at all. There was no love there. So after that was done, we had the petition ready to present to the Commission Council. And we had a Reverend Meade, who was a Methodist minister at the time. I asked him if he would present it to the council and handle it from there, and he did. Well, what happened, 2 days before the meeting, Lee Perez sent my cousin, who was working for the DA's office at the time, Daniel Pilar, sent him to my house to get a copy of the petition so they could see what was in it. Well, I gave in to Daniel, and he brought a copy of the petition to the judge. The judge called an emergency meeting of the council and passed everything that was in the petition as law in the council. So when that happened, of course, it took the starch out of what we were trying to do. But we had called the TV stations in New Orleans to come down to Point LaHash and record what was going to be going on or taking place. And they did. Well, of course, when Reverend Meade presented the petition to the judge or to the council, the judge said, "I'm sorry," he said, "but we have that on our books already," which he had passed the day, 2 days before. And after that happened, I was, of course, working for Getty. And the next week, I had the area superintendent from New Orleans to come down to Venice and meet with my boss, and more or less told him in so many words that Leslie Scobell had to go. Either terminate him or transfer him, but he's got to get out of Venice. And of course that happened. And I knew it was going to happen, but there was nothing I could do about it. So Getty, instead of firing me, they transferred me to West Texas, Odessa, Texas. Now the difference between Odessa, Texas and Venice is probably like night and day. It's two different worlds. But I took the transfer, went up there, and I didn't know it, but when I was transferred there, a letter went with me to keep in my files. I was an activist trying to overthrow the local government. And of course it was not true, but that was the word. And I stayed up there for a while and then worked my way back to Louisiana and found out that that letter that had been written was going to be in my files forever. But it was wrong. I was not an activist. I was not a rebel. I was just trying to do the right thing. But I stayed over in West Texas for 3 years, then worked my way over to Houston and stayed there for 20-some years. And every now and then we'd come down to Louisiana, and I'd always slow down at the judge's house, hoping I'd see him out in the yard. But I didn't. And I transferred from Houston to New Orleans, and then retired in 2000. That was my retirement date. And so I made it through that transfer, but it wasn't easy. My family suffered. When you lose your house, you lose your car, and you're almost destitute, it's not easy to take. But you gotta survive. You can't quit. And I guess that's been proven in this country many, many times. That the strong survive, and you just gotta keep fighting. I wrote this book, I started about 3 years ago. My wife passed away 3 years ago. And whenever I was in a crowd, usually at parties, I'd start telling them these stories about Judge Perez and Plaquemine Parish and the life that I had. And everybody was always saying, "Why don't you write a book? Why don't you write a book?" Well, I finally did. It's not much of a book, but it's my life as I lived it, and it's something I wanted my kids to know. I wanted to know exactly what I had gone through, and their mother. And I did write it, and it's done now. I sent one to Amos. He read it. He said it was pretty good. I don't know how good it was, but it took me a while, and it took me a lot of time to write something, scratch it out, rewrite it. But everything I have in that book is true. Nothing false, nothing fictitious. So it's for sale. I don't have any with, I do have some with me. And I want to give one to each council. I'll give that to them. I think they deserve it. I don't know how much they made. Probably not enough.
You have been on a long time. I'm just kidding.
So that's about it. I was, like I said, I was born and raised in Beerus, and nobody in my family had ever moved from Beerus. But
They tried to get you to turn around.
Mr. Scobell, Miss, how you doing? We would like to recognize you on.
Give you a standing ovation.
We ask that you come through the door. We want to present you with the proclamation and get a picture with you. Would you? All right.
How you doing, Mr. Scobell? Yes, sir. I can relate to your comments very well. My father and I experienced similar what you experienced, and I really appreciate your comments. No personnel.
Hey, call and play.
Now, I'm gonna give it to them.
Janice wants to know when her day is.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, we're going to move. I want to move to each council member to see what they would like to defer to withdrawn for this meeting. If anyone's sitting in the audience waiting, Mr. Bartholomew.
Have none.
You have none. Thank you, sir. Mr. Black.
6A1, defer,
6A1. Okay.
and 6H. H is in Henry, defer.
6H. Okay, thank you. Mr. Juneau?
Yes, I have three.
Okay.
6C, withdraw. 6D, withdraw.
Okay.
6E, withdraw.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Russo?
I have none at this time, pending on our executive session.
Okay, thank you. I have none. Ms.
I
Sal-
have none.
Ms. Elliott, none. Mr. Edgecombe? Mr. Edgecombe's good. Ms. Williams?
I have none at this time.
Okay. Just to refer it back, 6A1 for the public's interest will be deferred. 6B will be deferred. 6C, D, and E are all withdrawn. And 6H is deferred.
Did you say 6B? You said B. Who's deferring B?
I'm sorry. I apologize. 6B with Mr. Burt's legislation will not be withdrawn. I apologize. Is it
6 and 8.
okay? We will now move to item 6G.
G.
An ordinance to transfer funding from the REACH B2 Vegetative Ridge and Marsh Creation Project from Fort Jackson to Venice to the East Bank Back Levee Hurricane Protection Project and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
You offer, Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes.
I'll ask for a second.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Black. Mr.
Yes.
Bartholomew?
Yeah, we need to, I'm sorry, can I go back and fill in that blank? Do you want me to fill in the blank how much they're requesting?
Okay, Mr. Black, can you remove your second first?
I'll remove.
All right.
7.4 million.
And the blank on line 73,
Yeah.
7.4 million. Mr. Black is seconding.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Black. Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes. Move it for discussion. Ready to roll.
Let it roll. Any
We got a lot of discussion
Eh,
in here.
Any questions from the table?
Yes, I do have questions.
Ms. Williams?
I just would like to know if anyone has come up with definite numbers in reference to this project as far as what has been allocated, what has been spent, what is left, how much more is needed. I know y'all asking for 7.4 million. And with all due respect, I do agree the levee needs to be completed to the East Bank residents. No disrespect to y'all, but to what cost? I really think we need some answers here before we move forward.
Before we move forward, I'm sorry to cut you off. Is Mr. Rittner here?
He left.
Did Blair Rittner leave? I withdraw my second. Never mind. Is it,
He just momentarily stepped out. Mr. Dugas is ready to answer any other questions.
will Mr. Rittner be available to answer questions?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
He's been doing it since we've been
My
in
second
office.
stand, I'm sorry, Ms. Williams.
That's okay. I just would like some clarity, and not just for the council, but for the residents as well, for the public. I think there's a lot of unanswered questions here. Last time when we had the discussion, when we asked the question, we got one number, and then we got another number, and then another number. There's a couple of, I'll let y'all answer that, and then I have a couple more questions that I'd like to pose.
Okay. I'll go ahead and try to answer as many as I can. At this point, we were asked to see what figure will be needed to advertise Phase B and C. And a number that we had come up with for the construction estimate, the mitigation, as well as the inspection and testing needed for the project is $7.4 million.
Is that through completion?
We'll know more once the bids are received.
My point exactly.
Can I interject and ask one question? We were given a chart last meeting, and it showed general fund, bond money, grant money, series money, Isaac money. With that total money, what will that get me completed right now? Before I give you one more dime, will that complete A, B, C, D? What will that get me when we exhaust every funding source?
Right now, the Phase A is under construction. We believe we have enough money to complete it. If there's any outstanding change orders, that hasn't been defined at this point. Phase D is partially funded by the grant, and that's, the complete grant is exhausted under that contract, and we had bond money pay for the remainder. We feel we have enough money to complete that construction. The testing and inspection for both of those phases is already encumbered, so that number is included, and the design for Phase B and Phase C is already encumbered. So we feel comfortable with the
Let me get this straight,
engineering.
there's only 4 phases, right? A, B, C, D.
That is correct.
That's it. If we utilize every single dollar, all we need left is B and C.
I believe what you're saying is correct.
Well, you just said if any change orders, and A's still under construction, so you're really not sure what that final cost is going to be.
We have not
Correct.
closed that contract out at this point, and we have not closed out contract D at this point.
Okay, Mr. Rittner stated at the last council meeting that D, and I'm not going to quote him because it's either 50% or 60%, one of those, that's the level of completion it's at. So what you're saying, Mr. Dugas, is that you have enough money in the bond money to finish D. You're not going to come back and ask for any more money for the extra 40 or 50% to finish D?
That contract is already encumbered. A and D are already encumbered, as well as the engineering for all 4 phases, the testing for A and D, and
So you can assure us, this whole council, that you'll not come back to the council for any more money for A or D unless there's obviously a serious disaster or issue.
if there's, if there's an additional change order that comes up on any of the phases at this point, then there could be another increase. At this point, in order to get contract B and C out for bids, that's what we were pushing to do at the last time we talked. To do that, we have to get 7.4 to cover 1.5 million of mitigation, $500,000 for the testing and inspection, and the remainder for the construction estimate.
Okay, I have another question. We're outsourcing all of this work. Are we not capable of building our own levees to save some money? Putting local people to work?
Director of Operations can back me up on this. In the heavy equipment department, as I stated on some occasions in the past, when I was a councilman 8 years ago, I think we had 48 people in that department. We presently have 15. A couple of them are have back problems or not at work on a daily basis. So we really don't have the people in-house unless you give us the money to complete things like this. Because if we put everybody to work on the back levee, then we're not going to have anybody to cut the ditches or take care of the sinkholes that are occurring and other problems that we've incurred in
understand
the
that.
past year.
Then let me pose this question. If these REACH B2 funds would not have become available, what would have happened? Absolutely nothing? The levy would have just stayed as is? I just think that we have been fiscally, not us, but in general, fiscally irresponsible. Can we not submit not to exceed bids whenever we're doing projects? Can we not put a cap on? I mean, we have this, set it out and, we have this amount of money and build it for that, something to that extent, instead of having to come back.
I'm going to lean on the legal department for an answer on that question.
I'm just
Ms. Nicole.
trying to,
According to the bid laws, excuse me, the contract laws, I'm getting over a cold, if you don't have enough to cover in your budget an estimated amount for the whole thing, you can't put it out to bid. You can't just say, we want to bid. You have to have an estimate, you have to budget enough money to cover what the estimated cost will be. That's what the law says, before you can even do a bid.
As we stated last time, it's imperative that we put the bid out because the East Bank is in jeopardy. The longer we wait, the more hurricane seasons that they go through. Now, it's going to be difficult to correct any sins of the past, but what we have to do, in my humble opinion, is we've got to move forward because we're not only protecting the East Bank, we're also protecting the West Bank with this project.
and I think myself, as well as all of my colleagues at this table, do agree that the levy needs to be completed. That's not the issue here. We do agree that it needs to be completed. But at what cost? To what extent? What do you do when you use up all of the funds available and the levee's still not complete? Then what do you do?
That's why we're trying to put it out for bid.
But and I don't think legal answered my question. Can we not enter into a contract stating not to exceed?
I'm not, excuse me, I'm not sure about that. I just know what the actual state statutes say. And what they say is, before you can let out any construction project for bid, you have to have in your budget allocated an amount that would be estimated as to the amount that it might cost to do it. You can't, excuse me, in my opinion, you can't just say not to exceed such and such. That's fine, the language. But if you don't have anything in your budget, if you don't transfer something to your budget to cover the estimated cost in the bid laws, I don't like those bid laws nonetheless. That's the law. If you don't have an estimated amount in your budget, you can't let the construction contract out for bid.
Salvan, you have a question?
Mr. Chairman, in addition to
I
what
guess you have to
already,
get some funds. I'm sorry, I apologize.
go ahead, go ahead.
So you have to get the funds budgeted, showing not how much it's exactly going to cost, but an estimate, just the estimate. And then you can let it out for bid.
Ms. Salvan?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, in addition to all would have been said already, I agree with every comment that has been said by my colleagues. I feel as though is that we are dumping into, we are continually to dump funds into a bottomless pit without answers, without transparency. I'm old school. I mean, there's a bunch of young folks up here, some of my colleagues, it's much younger than I am. Maybe they can deal with all of these verbal presentations. But I need something in writing, something before me, something that I actually can see and put to task. You know, I've been relying on this administration to give us information, and everything is always verbal. It's always verbal. Verbal have a tendency to change when it's questioned. I need transparency. I need answers, and I'm tired dumping into a bottomless pit. We all agree, as Ms. Williams just stated, I think everybody up here supports East Bank levies, but at what cost? And do we just sacrifice the West Bank? I'm sitting here with projects, coastal projects in my district that everybody is abandoning, that everybody has abandoned in District 7. So am I to support this ordinance? How can I openly and honestly support this legislation when I'm being denied? My constituency is being denied. And again, I need transparency.
May I
Mr.
interject one
Chairman,
thing?
if I may remind Ms. Salvant that I think she has a $24.5 million project going on in the Diamond Back Levee as we speak, and highway improvements and drainage. And I would also like to remind everyone that this money we're talking about cannot be used for the general fund. It has to be used in those particular fashions, and there will be money left over if you're given the $7.4 million to address any other projects that Ms. Salvant may be speaking about.
But, Mr. Cormier, if you remember, you're trying to take credit for something that has nothing to do with this administration. That was previously ongoing projects. And if you remember, the Region B2 money was agreed by this council that we would divvy up among the council members that had coastal projects. So let's be honest and let's be fair here. We don't want to bounce back and forth and say, because we can go back, we can take it back. I have have supported document here to show that checks have been written out to a monitoring company in excess of $42 million regarding the East Bank levee. So when I speak of that bottomless pit, this is what I'm referring to.
Well, Ms. Alvin, you know, we're not trying to take credit for anything that's been done in the past. We're trying to move forward. And what we're stating to you right now is that there will be money left over for your projects from this B2 vegetated ridge money.
Based on what the gentleman
There's
just said, we
$14
don't know
million,
that.
if I'm not mistaken, that will be left. 7.4 is what they're asking for.
That's only,
And so you're going to have money left over.
You don't know that, Mr.
but
Cormier.
again,
How do you mean I don't know that? It's stated in there was 7.4 plus the 12 million to get the project, put it out for bid. Now, if it doesn't go through the bids, then you can do what you have to do from there. But the thing is, we have to move forward on the bid process, in my opinion, and I would hope that you would, go along with this project to help out those people. Because they're going to certainly go along to help out you.
I hope you answer, or the administration have some answers to the question that has been raised here.
all right, Mr. Black, you have a question?
Yeah, I have an additional question, which will decide my vote. So, I've asked this question at the last council meeting. I've asked this question in email form. I have not received a response. I know the President's office asked Land Department to give a response. Response hasn't been given. The question's pretty simple, and my goal is to complete this levee project, Phase A, B, C, and D. But after that's done, I want to get these levees accredited by the Corps of Engineers. And in order to get those levees accredited by the Corps of Engineers, for them to come in and say, we want to add on to these levees and make it a 50-year levee or an accredited levee, you obviously have standards. The Corps has standards. The two pits that we're using to build these levees on the East Bank, although I know that they're not on the Corps-approved list, may have gotten in after that list was published, okay? The dirt may meet the standards. All I want is on record for somebody from the administration to either give me an email or say it in public that the dirt that we're putting on these levees meets the Corps standard to be accredited down the road.
Mr. Black, the dirt that we are using has met the spec of the Corps' specifications for approved material. Now, as far as accreditation, that's a different process, but the material, the borrowed material that's being used meets the specifications.
And the reason why I wanted you in here is just that, to answer that question, also to follow up, in your professional opinion, since you stated that it meets the standard, when we decide to ask for accreditation, do you feel comfortable that the materials that we've used and the way the levee has been built will meet that standard?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. That's all I needed to know.
All right, any more, Mr. Russo?
Could you elaborate on how much in change orders have been issued on the work that we've done so far?
Sorry, Mr. Russo, I don't have that information with me.
Could you elaborate on what are the cost of A and what is the cost of D? And Ms. Williams was trying to get to an answer about when we issue contracts, do we issue them at a fixed dollar? Or do we issue them at an open-ended dollar?
Fixed.
Unless it's a lump sum, I mean, this is a legal question, but
They're fixed. They're fixed contracts.
in order for the
Fixed numbers.
contracts to be signed, they have to have money in the budget. So
Right.
if there's change orders approved by the administration, before they can be added to the contract, there has to be additional funding to cover that.
We had beaten an issue that is hung over from previous meetings. That is not the question. We all understand that we had an argument about how much money needs to be in the budget before we bid the project. Now, moving on from that issue, my question is, how much was the A contract, how much was the D contract, and how much in change orders have been issued for those two contracts?
I don't have the breakdown between the different contracts at this point, Mr. Rousseau.
Okay, let me move on to something else. How much is the estimate for B and C? Construction estimate.
The construction estimate is $23 million. It's
And how
around
much-
$22,888,000 is what I saw.
23 million, okay. And how much in the construction estimate of the 23 million is dedicated for contingency?
I don't believe there's any contingency in that.
So there's no contingency for a $23 million project.
As I understand it.
And the answer to the question about the borough meeting the specs, is that because you are doing testing through a testing lab?
Yes, sir, and then part of the bid package, they have to submit the borough pit, and they have to submit, they do borings in these pits, and they look at that material before it's ever placed on the levee.
And is that part of the original $23 million contract?
You say in the original for B and C? It's
Yes.
in that spec, yeah.
And
Yes.
so we are going to continue to hire outside inspection services,
Yes, sir.
and that is up to how much a year?
What's the contract on B and C? Well, right now, we have a company that's doing A and D, and I want to say off the top of my head, around $500,000 a year.
And there's no way that we could do those inspections in-house with the expert people that we have on the payroll that were hired because of their levy experience, and use an outside testing lab the contractors are going to use, but use the inspection services in-house?
I'll speak to it. The inspection that's required on this levee project is basically around the clock, sun up to sundown. So, and it's 7 days a week when there's good weather or good conditions. So if we pay somebody in-house to do it, we're going to need new employees, because then if you take existing employees, you're taking them away from what their responsibilities are at this point.
Well, I thought that's what we had hired individuals in the department for, because they had levy building experience, and they're on the payroll now. And when we talk about 724, I understand that, but that's not what happens. Because how many rain days and how many days are we talking about now for the contract that was not completed yet?
I don't know that off the top
I know,
of
so my
head.
point is this. Whenever I raise this issue about in-house inspection, because we're paying $500,000 to an engineering firm to do outside inspection, and I ask why we're not doing it in-house, I always get the same answer, 724 or 24/7.
Right.
However, we know that that's not reality, because they're not working 24/7.
Right.
And we also know that if we have an employee that works 60 hours a week and works no hours the next week because of rain out, it all could balance out. So I think in my mind, there's not been enough effort to try to do that. And we're on the same path and train that we've been on, paying outside consultants to do some of the work that we could do in-house. And I'm not talking about the testing labs that you say is included in the contract for the construction. I'm talking about the inspection services, which is $500,000 a year, that we could be utilizing other employees to do. Now, when the budget comes to the point to where we have to lay off people, if it happens, and, you know, I've been singing this song for a while and told not to get overreactive and panic, I do think that there is a way to build this levee by beefing up the workforce in the heavy equipment and utilizing these bond funds to maintain a payroll in-house rather than contract this payroll to a contractor from out of state or wherever. And you got to be creative in this type of approach if you really want to maintain a heavy equipment payroll, and you have to beef up the payroll. And this is something that is not new to Plaquemines Parish. They've done it for years, We used in-house labor to build levees and got credit for it for core participation. So I would encourage y'all to think a little bit further down the line and get off of the rail that we're on where we're paying everything to outside consultants and start looking at some self-preservation for the payroll that we are going to wind up having to sacrifice anyway. And this is not the first time that I've said this in meetings about taking some of that bond money, buying some equipment, beefing up the heavy equipment department, and maintaining a payroll. Now, if that's not the choice, then when you lay off the individuals, they maybe can go work for the contractor from Mississippi, Alabama, or wherever they come from. They may be able to work for them, they may not. If you had control of the levy project, we could decide to keep them on the payroll. And I'm going to close with that because I haven't gotten very many answers on these change orders. And as far as the full contract of A and D, I haven't gotten that answer either. And I've been asking that for a year.
Mr. Chairman, the administration concurs that we will, when you pass this today, we will look at in-house inspectors.
All right, thank you.
Naturally.
Any other questions from the table? Mr. Bartholomew?
In closing, I know there are many concerns and council members are not satisfied with what took place, but the fact remains the levy needs to be completed. There's no way else getting around that. And whatever went down in the past, we have no control over that. That didn't happen. But what comes to the future, we have control over, we can control. I think now is the time to set those principles in place that can warrant that we can monitor and make sure whatever we put before the projects that is done accordingly. And that these things are done with those specifications only. No, by no other means are they to be deterred. So with that saying, I would hope that everybody understand how important this is to get done, and that the project has been warranted not only by the parish, but also by a court decision, warrant that this levy needs to be built. So all I'm saying is that I appreciate if you would really go down and support this project, and let's move forward. Thank you.
Chair? Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir, Mr.
if you would, before we call a question, could we have a 2-minute recess, please?
I'll grant a 2-minute recess.
Can I say something first?
Oh, hold on. Go ahead, Mr. Juneau, 1 minute.
I'm not against the levy. The people on East Bank need the levy. We know that. But we're just trying to find out where the money is going. We've been spending a lot of money. We don't have no more money. So we're trying to do the best we can. And we're not trying to hurt nobody. We're just trying to get answers and see if we can do some in-house. And that's all we're trying to do. We're not against the East Bank.
Okay.
Mr. Russo, I found an answer to two of your questions. Out of the bond money, we have encumbered 14.
No. I'm just interested in what the
Contract
contract
A.
A cost.
Contract A, 14.5. Contract D, 7.3.
That's total, all funding sources.
Those are strictly bond and grant funding.
Are there any other funding that went into those projects?
There was Isaac P.W. for almost $800,000 for Contract A.
It's almost 15. 15.
And now, since we've opened this back up, what about the bonding company that took over the contract that the contractor defaulted on? How much money that the bonding company is paying?
I can't answer that question as how much they're paying, but I can tell you the contract that we have for Contract A is $14.5 million.
And so no one can answer the question about how did the bonding company come into play to pick up the contract and what effect that had on the finances.
That would have been more of a legal question as far as how they came in and took over the contract.
Can you understand my frustration about trying to get to the dollar amount?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, let me just add that the administration, to get this bid, will go along with the council on any stipulations or particular items that you want to put in this bid process or for the contract in order to get this thing achieved. So we're not going to do anything without your input.
Okay, with that note, I'm going to grant Mr. Edgecombe 2-minute recess. We adjourn at 2:26 for a 2-minute recess. One. I'm going to ask if there's any more questions from the table. I'm going to ask the audience. Please come, Mr. Lawrence.
120 Timber Canal Lane. One question was on the certification for the mud and everything that they're using in the pit. I know in the case on all the other pits have to be certified by the Corps before you ever use mud out of them. My question is, why aren't these pits in the contract required to be certified by the Corps before you ever use mud out of them? If that is the case, you know, that's what was required of all the pit owners that have used it on the levees so far in the parishes. They were required to have certification by the Corps. That's the responsibility of the pit operator before he can sell you mud. And I don't know if this has been done in this case.
I would have to revert to Mr. Retner.
Yeah. The Corps quit certifying pits about 4 or 5 years ago. When they originally came in after Hurricane Katrina, they had everything under IERs that they actually said these pits meet this criteria, all right? They don't have that. There's no way that comes into play today. And when all we do is when our bid packages are put together, we copy the specifications. That's what has to be met. And that's what we have done. Now, he is correct where when the Corps puts out a federal project, they want a pit that was in the old IER. But right now, that's not, that is only for a bid. They could still use any pit that they want. It's just that they don't have to go through that IER process.
Thank you, Mr. Retner. Anyone else?
Yeah, before, as Mr. Henry walks up, just give us an example of what would constitute a change order. So, say we give you $7.3 million for this project, and what is an example of a change that would constitute a change order on this project?
When a project is bid on,
today.
we have plain quantities. Okay, we're putting 300,000 cubic yards on a project. That's the estimate of the amount of material. There's absolutely no way that number is going to be exactly 300,000. So when it gets to the end, if it goes to a point where it overruns that 300,000 cubic yard quantity, then we would have to go, before they do any more, go to the administration and.
So the administration approves that.
As long as there's
change
funding,
order.
as long as there's funding available.
Without the approval of the council, right?
The change orders, yes.
Okay, so we appropriate the money. You guys exhaust or encumber the entire amount because you have change orders that the administration approves without approval of the council. Then you meet that max, then you come back to the council for more money because you've exceeded the original appropriated amount. Is that the process? Pretty much? So what I want to do, I'd like to see done, and I think this goes back to Mr. Russell's question, and Ms. Williams' question. If we give you $7.3 million, 7.4, the administration shouldn't be authorizing any change orders. We should know about the change orders so we know where the money is going. So when it gets to the 7.4 million and it's all encumbered, then we know, hey, wait a second, if we approve this, you're going to come back and ask for more money. I mean, does that make sense? All we do is appropriate money, you exhaust it all because you're using change order after change order after change order without council knowledge, and then you come back to us for more appropriations. And that's where I think the fear is amongst this council, is that you're going to come back for more money after the 7.4 is appropriated because you've exhausted it through change orders. That Ms. Williams had mentioned, if you could eliminate that in the contract and cap it, it's a responsibility of the contractor. So If it costs you X per ton, that's what in the contractor, and it goes up, that's on the contractor, not on us. You follow?
Can I ask you a question about that? Answer
Yeah.
part of that? The bid law says you have to have an estimate. This 7, whatever y'all talked about million, is an estimate. That's just so you can let the bid out. Now, the bids may come back under 7 million. Who knows? They may come back over 7 million.
That's not even close to what we're talking about.
Okay, I
Well,
apologize.
let me simplify it like this. If we give $7.4 million and gas is $1.60 a gallon, but now all of a sudden, it goes up to $4.50 a gallon, and it's costing the contractor that extra $3.10, okay, a gallon of gas, well, their costs go up. What they're doing is they're coming back to us, doing a change order on something else, and we're eating that cost. It's the same thing as the dirt. If the dirt is $2 a square foot or a square ton or whatever it is, then we cap it at that, like Ms. Williams said. So can we cap that rate in the contract?
Yes, you can.
Okay, that's,
But in order to get to that point, you got to get it out for bid.
I know, but in the contract, we want to cap the
Yes,
price
the
of
answer is
soil.
yes.
Ms. Williams, does that answer some of, I mean, is that,
Ms. Williams, are you?
Yeah, that's a partial answer, yeah.
Okay.
so is administration willing to put that range in the contract where if it exceeds, dirt exceeds that cost, we don't pick it up? It's the contractor's burden, not ours. So when he enters into the contract, he knows, hey, the price of dirt may go up.
The bids, when we receive bids, the quantities that are submitted in the bids are, they're given unit costs, and the bids are accepted based on the total of all of those extensions of unit costs. So the cost for the dirt is set. There's no deviation from it.
Well, it's not just the dirt, it's gonna be any additional cost incurred.
Right, and I asked for an example, and you gave me that example. Why would you do a change order, and you gave me the example because cost of dirt?
No, I think it's the quantity.
Well, quantity?
It's a quantity.
Can we cap the quantity? I mean, you have to have an estimate of how much you need.
Right.
So if the guy's losing dirt along the way on the road, or he's dumping it somewhere else, or giving it to his buddy, well, we know we need X amount of, we capping that dirt based on an estimate, and any dirt to exceed this, it's on them. Can we cap the quantity as well as the cost?
I don't know if you can, I mean, that's a legal question.
Ye- yes, you can.
If you cap the
Bo-
quantity,
Bo,
you
you
don't pay
can
any more.
cap, you can cap if you want. That's up to y'all. Well, I understand that, but when you go out to bid, though, if the bidders understand that's going to happen, then the bids are going to come back pretty high.
The administration will put any caps that you would like to have in any contract that we negotiate with.
That's the answer.
Mr. Bartholomew, you have a question?
Yeah, my question would be then, would it be the council need to put that in a legislation, in a ordinance form, dictating that we put a limit, not to exceed whatever is appropriated, whatever is budgeted, not to exceed that amount of money?
That would be fine with the administration.
You want to make an amendment?
If that is satisfied by the table, let's.
With that being said, I think my suggestion would be maybe to defer it, Mr. Bartholomew, that way we can get everything together and
Maybe we could cool ahead.
for the next meeting, if you're okay with that, I mean,
Okay, well, we have to, but the idea is that we really need to move forward on this project.
I agree, I
You know,
agree.
and I can't, because then if we linger it, that means instead of going through one hurricane season, we're gonna have to wind up going two before it's possibly completed. But all the stipulation, whatever need to be put into the contract, into the bid process, we can put that in the ordinance, if so be, to eliminate anything else from coming out of that money any other time, any
I
place.
just want to make sure before we vote on this and finalize it, we cross all our Ts and dot all our Is, because
So you be ready to vote for it next meeting.
providing everything is satisfactory to where, you know, we can make sure that everything gets taken care of as it should be, fiscally responsible.
I guess on administration behalf, I'd have to ask, what is it that you are not clear about?
Well, there's
I mean,
several
it's hard
questions
to
that we
wake up a
posed
man
today.
that's not sleeping.
Whoa, one at a time, one at a
Yeah,
time.
it's hard to wake up a man that's not sleeping. I mean, you got to tell us what you want.
We've
The
asked
administration is
several
willing to
questions.
put a cap on anything that you want to limit the funds. So if we're willing to do that, I mean, I don't know what else do you want us to look at from a legal standpoint?
There's several
Well-
questions that were posed here today that still haven't been answered.
Hold on, Ms. Williamson.
But if we put a cap on it, the
Oh,
answers
Mr.
are there.
Mr. Bartholomew, I think if we went back to the drawing board another week, 2 weeks, and we had the cap put in, and everyone understood it a little bit better, I think you might get a little bit more cooperation. So, with that said, it's your call. You want to move forward, or you want to defer?
We'll defer. I'll offer to defer.
Item 6G is deferred. We'll now move to item 1A, executive session. Ms. Barber, can you read them all?
1, Plaquemines Parish Government versus William Billy Nungesser, 25th JDC. Case number 62538, Division B, Attorney Shane Landry. Number 2, Hunt Petroleum Corporation et al. Versus Texaco Inc. et al., 25 JDC, number 34-592, Division B, Attorney L.V. Cooley. Number 3, Vintage Petroleum Inc. versus the State of Louisiana et al., 25th JDC, number 48-788, Division A, Attorney L.V. Cooley. Number 4, Chevron USA Inc. et al., State of Louisiana et al., 25th JDC, number 51-097, Division A, Attorney L.V. Cooley. Number 5, Chevron USA Inc. et al. Versus State of Louisiana et al., 25th JDC, number 51-098, Division B, Attorney L.V. Cooley. Number 6, Imperial Petroleum Inc. et al. Versus the State Mineral Board, 25th JDC, number 56-605, Division B, Attorney L.V. Cooley. Number 7, Clayton Williams Energy Inc. versus State of Louisiana et al., 25th JDC, number 60-073, Division B, Attorney L.V. Cooley. Number 8, Hillcore Energy Company et al. Versus State of Louisiana, 25th JDC, number 60-827, Division B, Attorney L.V. Cooley. Number 9, Hillcore Energy Company et al. Versus State of Louisiana et al., 25th JDC, number 61-790, Division B, Attorney L.V. Cooley.
I'll offer executive session and ask for a second. Second by Mr. Black. Machine's opening for executive session. Great, okay. Machine is open on executive session. And it passes 8-0. We adjourn to executive session at 2:44. Executive session at 3:54, finding no legal and binding action. We will now move to item, what's the first one?
J.
J. We'll move to item J. Ms. Barber, can you read item J?
Yes, sir. A resolution approving Plaquemines Parish government's entering into an agreement with parties in lawsuit styled Chevron USA Inc. et al. Versus State of Louisiana et al., 25th JDC number 51-098, Division B, hereinafter Chevron number 51-098 lawsuit, to settle and compromise claims authorizing Parish President Amos Cormier Jr. and parish attorneys to execute settlement documents and pleadings on behalf of Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Russo, you can offer with changes?
Yes, on line 20, after the word claims, insert on an 80-20 basis in favor of the Plaquemines Parish government. On line 29, after the word claims, insert the same language on an 80-20 basis in favor of the Plaquemines Parish government. And on line 30, after conflicted funds, insert the language less court cost. And with that, I'll offer.
Offer is made with the changes. I'll second it. Mr. Russo?
Yes, what this does, and Mr. LV is in the audience, this allows us to settle a concursus proceedings on the basis of that split of 80-20. And with that, if you have any detailed questions, this has been ongoing litigation for quite some time. and it's coming to a compromised position at this point.
Any questions from the table? Administration? Audience?
Could you elaborate on the lawsuit itself?
It's a dispute on water bottoms over mineral revenue, and it goes back many years. And if you want to get into more details, Mr. LV is here. But what happens is when an oil company nominates a piece of property, and there's a dispute over the land issue, who owns that land issue, and then the oil company puts the money in the registry of a court so that he doesn't have to pay twice to the two landowners. And then the two landowners who claim that land fight it out in court to decide who gets what out of that pot. And in this case, we are moving in to settle these issues on an 80-20 basis in favor of Plaquemines Parish.
80-20 compensation or even 80-20 property?
The estimated value of this settlement is $43,000.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. Anyone else? The machine is open on 6J. And the resolution is approved 8-0. We'll move to 6K.
A resolution approving Plaquemines Parish government's entering into an agreement with parties in lawsuit styled Clayton Williams Energy, Inc. versus State of Louisiana et al., 25th JDC number 60-073, Division B, hereinafter Clayton Williams lawsuit, to settle and compromise claims authorizing Parish President Amos Cormier, Jr. and parish attorneys to execute settlement documents and pleadings on behalf of Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
You offer with changes, Mr. Russo?
Yes, and the changes on this one will be on line 21, after the word claims, insert on a 65-35 basis in favor of Plaquemines Parish government. On line 30, after the word claims, insert the same language on a 65-35 basis in favor of PPG. And on line 31, after the word funds, insert less court cost. And for Mr. Henry's benefit, this one will net us or gross us about $247,000 minus court cost.
With the offer, I'll second it. Any questions from the table? Audience? Machine's open on 6K. Jeff's not here. And the resolution is granted 7-0. We move to 6M.
A resolution approving Plaquemines Parish government's entering into an agreement with parties in lawsuit styled Hillcore Energy Company et al. Versus State of Louisiana, 25th JDC number 60-827, Division B, hereinafter Hillcore number 60-827 lawsuit, to settle and compromise claims, authorizing Parish President Amos Cormier, Jr. and parish attorneys to execute settlement documents and pleadings on behalf of Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Your offer with changes, Mr. Russo?
Yes, on line 21, after the word claims, again, on an 80-20 basis in favor of PPG, Plaquemines Parish government. On line 30, after the word claims, insert the same language on an 80-20 basis in favor of Plaquemines Parish government. And on line 31, after the word funds, less court cost. And this is approximately $348,000.
With the offer, I'll second. Are there any questions from the table? Audience? Machine's open on 6M. Huh? Was that?
M.
That was M. That was M. I was right, huh? All right, and the resolution is granted 7-0. While we're here, 7N and 7L will be deferred.
I as well.
I2, an I2. 7I, L, and N will be deferred. We'll move to 6O.
A resolution approving Plaquemines Parish governments entering into an agreement with parties in lawsuit styled Imperial Petroleum, Inc. et al. Versus the State Mineral Board, 25th JDC number 56-605, Division B, hereinafter Imperial lawsuit to settle and compromise claims authorizing Parish President Amos Cormier, Jr. and parish attorneys to execute settlement documents and pleadings on behalf of Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
You offer with changes, Mr. Russo?
Yes, I'll offer it and ask on lines 20, after the word claims, insert on an 80-20 basis in favor of the state of Louisiana. And on line 28, after the word claims, insert the same language on an 80-20 basis in favor of the state of Louisiana. And on line 29, after funds, less court cost, insert that language, and I'll offer it.
With that offer, I'll second.
18,000.
18,000.
I'm rounding these numbers off.
Any questions from the table? Audience? Machine is open on 6O. And the resolution is granted 7-0. We'll move to item 6P.
A resolution approving Plaquemines Parish governments entering into an agreement with parties in lawsuit styled Vintage Petroleum, Inc. versus State of Louisiana and Plaquemines Parish government, 25th JDC number 48-788, Division A, hereinafter Vintage lawsuit, to settle and compromise claims authorizing Parish President Amos Cormier, Jr. and parish attorneys to execute settlement documents and pleadings on behalf of Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
You offer with changes, Mr. Russo?
Yes, I do. On line 21, after the word claims, insert on an 80-20 basis in favor of the Plaquemines Parish government. On line 29, insert the same language on a 80-20 basis in favor of the Plaquemines Parish government. And that is about 147,000.
With that offer, I'll second. Any questions from the table? Audience?
Mr. Russo, in your honest opinion, these settlements, are they really the most we could get?
In my opinion, it is the best compromise that we can get. We risk going to court and losing in the court, and we have an established precedent that works in our favor at this time, and we would not like to see any court decisions come down that would work against us in the future. Because when you take on the state, you know, you have a pretty adversarial position over these minerals, and that's why I'm very cautious when we talk about taking money from the state. But in these cases, some of these cases go back 10, 12, 15 years or more. So it's a time to move forward. As you can see, 80-20 in most of the cases are in our favor, one or two are not. But at the end of the day, I think it's the best deal based on the legal advice that we have and the expertise that we have in the legal and mineral department that we rely on. And I have confidence and faith in those recommendations, and that's why I'm offering them and supporting them today. A year.
All right.
Well, I mean, Paris could use it. Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Machine is open on 6P. And the resolution is granted 8-0. That's all, Mr. Cooley? Yeah, we did 6M. Okay, we good? Oh, all right. Now we'll revert back to item 1C, status report by the parish president. Mr. Cormier?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to open up the new year by commending the council on what I think was a remarkable job last year in putting the parish first above local interest and district interest. I thought you did an outstanding job, and we hope that you will continue to do so in the future. In regards to Mr. Cooley, last year when I came in office, there were many concursive cases that were lingering, anticipating the budget problems that we would have during this past year as well as this year. I asked Mr. Cooley to go ahead and try to get active on these particular cases and make some settlements so that we could get the funds that the parish surely needs. As a result of that, I would remind the people a question about settling. The state is also in need of money right now, so this is not the time to go against the state because they're going to battle everything that they have to keep whatever they can get. So I think we came out really in good shape with Mr. Cooley's advances on those concursive cases. I did speak with Mr. Jim Donlin, the Commissioner of Insurance, with the question of trying to get some relief for the parish as far as the Stafford Act and water flood insurance on public buildings. There are some consequences to that, but he told me that he would review it and get back in touch with us. So we appreciate his help on that particular issue. As far as the punitive damages are concerned, right now it's moving along at a good pace. There is a special master that has been named, and his name is Juno, so we hope one of our council members has some contact or family ties with him. We've turned in an extensive brief. It's a competitive type of thing. Everybody and their brother is going to probably apply. We do have some advantages, though, in the sense that, as an example, people that own condos on the beaches in Florida that are going to put in to try and get some of that money, but those beaches over there are owned by the state. So what we, in our brief, what we're trying to do is make sure that they follow the same formula so that the people that were rewarded on a private basis in Louisiana, in our area, that we would be given that same type of consideration on our claims. And of course, we will probably have one of the larger claims that will be put on the table. So having said that, I hope that everyone had a good new year, and I hope that the parish can move forward with the things that are necessary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Cormier. Any questions from the table? I have one. Mr. Cormier or Mr. Giles, can you help me out with this one? Received numerous calls of people crossing the ferry and the little ferry in operation, the big ferry not operational. Can we address that, or the concerns of why we're not running the big ferry, maybe even the big ferry at certain peak times?
Because of the budget constraints that we're under, we're trying to save some fuel and costs, so we implemented running a smaller ferry. But because of the numerous calls we receive also, so what we did, spoke to Mr. Joey, and we put the big ferry back in service last night.
Okay.
But that was the purpose, try to save as much money as possible.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate that concern, and that we are a dire strait.
Yeah.
But, you know, when I get called on, I say, let me refer to some of the people and find out what's going on.
Tell them call me. I'm like, Morris,
Director
one
Giles.
call, that's all.
You said you put it back, the big ferry back in service.
That's
Are you
correct.
only going to put it back in service during peak hours?
We're going to run it every day except weekends. We're working on, discussing having a schedule where maybe doing peak hours, running in the morning like we used to do with the split shift, but we're working on the logistics on that right now, if that's possible. If it's possible, we're going to do it. But right now, what we're going to do, we're going to run the Pride Monday through Friday, and on weekends, we're going to run the smaller ferry. That's our plans as of right now.
Okay. I'd hope you'd work on that. I mean, that would be my preference.
Oh, yeah.
To run the Pride 5 days a week, all day.
Yeah.
Just run them in peak hours. And I know it's logistically, it's a nightmare because the captain has to get off the one ferry, dock it, and get back on the other one, and the
Yeah,
crew and
that-
everything else. There is downtime.
And that's some
I
of the
got
issues
you.
we're facing, but we're working on it.
Thanks.
Hopefully by next week, we have some clarity on it.
Thank you, Mr. John. Anyone else?
Now, I just want to thank Reverend Giles for his quick response to the public's concern on adjusting the ferry, because I had some calls as well, but Reverend Giles was on top of it before I had a chance to call him. So thank you for your help.
Thank you, Reverend John. Anyone else? All right, we'll move to item 3, beer and liquor license. Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, I have three. K-LO Enterprise LLC, Ferris store stop at 3762 Highway 39, Brightway, Louisiana. Byron Williams Sr., B&V Blue Room, 12945 Highway 15, Phoenix, Louisiana. DJ's One Stop. Where is it? Darrell Domain is the owner, and the address is P.O. Box 3542. Address is 18013 Highway 15, Point LaHashe, Louisiana. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Black.
Yeah, Clubhouse Bar and Grill, 8133 Highway 23 in Belle Chase. And I have a special event permit for the YMCA, which is 8101 Highway 23 in Belle Chase, 70037. That is for a event starting on 3/19 at 2 p.m. and ending at 8 p.m., the Jambalaya Fest cook-off. That's all.
Mr. Juno?
I have two. Lady Grace Seafood, 9052 Highway 23, Belchester, Louisiana. Also the Blue Angel Bar, 9670 Highway 23, Belchester, Louisiana. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Juno. Mr. Russo?
I'd like to offer the following for renewal: Salvo Seafood, 7740. Salvo Seafood, 7742 Highway 23, Belle Chase, Louisiana. N&L LLC, 10830 Highway 23, Belle Chase, Louisiana. Angelo's Restaurant and Lounge, 2019 Concord Road, Belle Chase, Louisiana. James F. Gasquet State Oil Fuel Center, 7124 Highway 23, Belle Chase, Louisiana. And State Oil Fuel Center Incorporated, 7124 Highway 23, Belle Chase, Louisiana, all for renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Russo. I have one. New Orleans Original Daiquiris, 8102 Highway 23, Belle Chase, Louisiana. Ms. Alban?
Yes, sir. I have three. Gilbo Deli, Jody Gilbo, P.O. Box 66, Port Sulphur, Louisiana. That's for renewal. Gilbo Inc., Harold and Jody Gilbo, P.O. Box 66, Port Sulphur, Louisiana. Also a renewal. And I have Myrtle Grove Bar, Stephen Bro Jr., 17509 Highway 23, Myrtle Grove, Louisiana. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alban. Mr. Edgecombe?
No, sir, none.
Ms. Williams?
I have several.
Okay.
Lucky Ryan LLC, 109 Rhodey Lane, Buras. This is a renewal. The Den Lounge, 42805 Highway 23, Venice. That's a renewal. Iguana's Daiquiri Express Incorporated, 123 El Dorado Street, Buras. That's a renewal. Venice Marina, 237 Sports Marina Road, Suite A, Venice, Louisiana, for a renewal. And Deep Delta Houseboats, also at 237 Sports Marina Road, Venice, Louisiana, for a renewal. And I have a special event application for the Buras Volunteer Fire Department for their annual community event fundraiser, the BVFD Oldfield Crawfish Ball Off, to be held at Fort Jackson on April 16th, starting at 6 a.m. and ending at 6 p.m. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
I'll offer.
Offered by Mr. Russo to take them in Globo. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Juno. Any questions on the liquor license? The machine's open. Okay. Mr. Edgecombe will be present in that voting. And the liquor license passed 7-0. We'll move to item 4, building permits. Is there be any objection to take them in Globo or anybody looking? Well, let's take out, you want to take out U.S. Maternity 4C?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Anyone else? There'd be objection without, we're gonna take out 4C, but the other ones we're taking global. Is that okay, Mr. Black?
We're from the global, at least you're gonna stay in the whole thing, but if you want me to vote on,
Okay, well, let's take the first 5. Because I think that would be, one,
1 through 5?
yeah, 1 through 5, Miss.
4A1, Chevron Pipeline Company, application number 2015-983, dated November 24, 2015, to remove bulkheads, install temporary workspace, and lower existing 8-inch VP pipeline, Bay Palm d'Or. Councilmember Williams. Number 2, Ardeman and Associates, Inc., application number 2015-10157, dated December 10, 2015, to drill 3 soil borings, 1111 Engineers Road, Belle Chase, Councilmember Bursell. Number 3, Fieldwood Energy, application number 2015-1038, dated December 16, 2015, for maintenance dredging, Emmeline Pass area, Councilmember Bartholomew. Number 4, Eustis Engineering, application number 2015-1040, dated December 16, 2015, to drill 3 soil borings, Bohemia area, Councilmember Bartholomew. Number 5, Plains Pipeline LP, application number 2016-2, dated January 4, 2016, for anomaly repairs along an existing 12-inch BOA pipeline east of Drake Bay, Councilmember Edgecombe.
Been a request that we offer 1 through 5 in global. I'll offer and ask for a second. Second by Mr. Edgecombe. Any questions on the permits? The machine is open. Oh,
On the application on number 2 and number 4, you know what the saw borings are for?
Saw, 4, saw boring is being done in Bohemia area and testing the soil for the LL&G plant. Conducting of the land down and see what the content, what its makeup, what's the makeup.
Benny?
I know about the other.
Benny, number 2.
Yeah, that's CNC Marine, and they're looking to see what they can build there.
Okay.
all right, thank you. Anyone else? Machines open on the permits. And the permits are granted 7 with 1 abstention from District 2. We'll move to 4B.
Four Seasons Fireworks, Ed Cubion Fireworks Stand Renewal, 8220 Highway 23, Belle Chase.
I'll offer and ask for a second. Second by Mr. Juno. Firework, just for stand renewal. Any questions? Machines open. And the permit is granted 8-0. We'll move to 4C.
B&B Partners LLC, new 44-bay boat shed in a floodplain, 165 Marina Road, Myrtle Grove, Louisiana. Councilmember Trufant Salvant.
Ms. Salvant?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, this particular permit has came before the council on numerous occasions, and I continue to ask for, even at the last meeting, I requested that a meeting be called for all of the parties concerned, and to no avail. So with any further delay, I'm going to withdraw this permit.
Okay. 4C has been withdrawn. 4D.
Wholesale Fireworks, Kurt Cavalier Fireworks Stand Renewal, 7614 Highway 23, Belle Chase. Councilmember Russell.
Mr. Russo, you offer? I'll second. It's a renewal? All right. Any questions? Machines open on the renewal? And the renewal is granted 8-0. We'll move to item 5, introductions of ordinance and resolutions. Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes. A resolution authorizing a revision to the project, a description associated with the $59,985,000 Louisiana located governmental environmental facility and Community Development Authority Revenue Bond Platinum Parish Property Series 2012, issued for the purpose of financing coastal restoration project and related infrastructure within the parish, otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Resolution authorizing Parish President J. Amos J. Cormier Jr. to prepare and advertise for the request of proposal for the relocation of the Point Lahash Communication Tower, hut, generator, foundation, dismantling or original tower facilities, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision for the property of Grace G. DeCarlo and Don A. DeCarlo, Plaquemine Parish, Louisiana, as shown on map of re-subdivision, Track E and 2, Track E1 and E2, Stella Farm, by Huey MacArthur III, PLS, dated November 9, 2015. The owner have fulfilled all the requirements of subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemine without cost to Plaquemine Parish government or the parish of Plaquemine, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing the parish president, Amos J. Cormier Jr., to prepare and advertise at the request for a proposal of the construction of the Point Lahash, we got Point Lahash Courthouse, but it should be Plaquemine Parish Courthouse, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. So remove that Point Lahash and put Plaquemine Parish Courthouse.
That it? Oh, I'm
Wait,
sorry.
let me look at this.
I'm sorry.
A resolution, yeah, that's it.
Is that it? Okay, Mr. Black?
A resolution to assign 2 covered parking spaces at 8056 Highway 23, Belchase, Louisiana, to Plaquemine's Port, Harbor, and Terminal District, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend and as amended readopt Section 17.5-51 of the Code of Ordinances entitled Parish Funding of Fairs and Festivals, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution assigning office space in the Belchase Government Complex on F. Edward Hebert Boulevard, Building 100, Belchase, Louisiana, to the Parish Department Internal Auditor, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more.
Okay, go ahead, Mr.
An ordinance to amend the General Fund 2016 operating expenditure budget, Recreation Department, Day Event Recreation Program, should be Day Event Recreational Summer Program, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you. Mr. Juneau?
I have none.
You have none? Mr. Russo?
Yes, I have a resolution authorizing the additional purpose for which any unexpended proceeds from the sale of the $10 million of Revenue Bond Series 2004 of the Parish of Plaquemine, State of Louisiana may be used, and an ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan, upgrade Belchase Water Plant Project in the Bond Series 2004, rehab Boothville Bureau's wastewater treatment plant project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you. I have several. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvement plan for the EOC Safe Room Project and 2016 operating expenditure budget, Homeland Security Emergency Preparedness Department, line item, employee expense training, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing and directing the parish president or his designee to do all things necessary and proper to negotiate, execute, perfect, and enforce any and all documents required to apply for the Local Government Assistant Program grant for the Office of Community Services in the amount of $103,800 to purchase 3 replacement motor vehicles and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvement plan for the Horizon Curve Treatment Parish-wide project, otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing the parish president, Amos Cormier Jr., to renew, amend, and extend the current contract of employment with Renew Recovery Group Incorporated sales tax collection through December 31st, 2017, with additional 2-year option to renew thereafter, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution to amend and as amended to appoint the members of the Regional Planning Commission for Plaquemine Parish for 2016 and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvement plan for the horizontal curve treatment. No, same one. Yeah, okay. That's the same one there too. All right. I'm introducing this one on behalf of Mr. Burt. An ordinance to amend and as amended, re-adopt Section 6, Paragraph M, subparagraphs 1 and 2 of Ordinance Number 142, the Comprehensive Zone Ordinance of Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, which was not recommended by the Plaquemines Parish Development Board in its advisory capacity. In Resolution Number 8-15 dated November 17, 2015, according to the minutes of the meeting held on November 17, 2015, with reference to application of number 2015-145 dated September 25, 2015. And I have another one, a resolution denying proposed text amendment application 2015-145 dated September 25, 2015, as recommended by the Plaquemines Parish Development Board by its resolution number 08-15 dated November 17, 2015. That's all I have. Ms. Salvan?
I have none.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Edgecombe?
Yes, sir, I have two. A resolution authorizing the parish president to accept the second donation of a barge to Plaquemines Parish government for public use and benefits and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution ordering the addition of a proposition to the ballot for the November 8th, 2016 election to abolish the Plaquemines Parish civil service system and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Edgecombe. Ms. Williams?
I don't have any, sir.
Thank you. We will now move to item 6A, ordinance and resolutions on second reading and final passage. A1 was deferred. We will move to 6A2.
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of BGL LLC located in Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana. As shown on map of re-subdivision of the property formerly owned by Catherine McGinty, wife of and John R. McGinty, into lots 1, 2, 3, and 4, property of BGL LLC by Richmond W. Krebs, PLS, of R.W. Krebs LLC, dated July 10, 2015. The owners having fulfilled all of the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines.
Okay, actually, we'll move to 7B2. That is the public hearing.
Look at that, any comments?
Is there any comments on this 6A2? Or none, and the public hearing is closed. We'll move to 6A2.
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of BGL LLC located in Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana. As shown on map of re-subdivision of the property formerly owned by Catherine McGinty, wife of and John R. McGinty, into lots 1, 2, 3, and 4, property of BGL LLC by Richmond W. Krebs, PLS, of R.W. Krebs LLC, dated July 10, 2015. The owners having fulfilled all of the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost to the Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines.
Mr. Bartholomew, you offering?
I do.
Can I get it? I'm going to ask for a second.
I'm sorry? Juno.
Mr. Juno seconded. Everything's good, Mr. Bartholomew? You ready?
Yes.
All right, any questions? The machine's open. And the ordinance is granted 8-0. All right, Ms. Paul, we'll move to 7, we'll read the public hearing first. Move to 7C.
7C? 7.3, you mean?
7, yeah, 7.
B3.
B3.
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of Chester D. Wharton and Ava D. Hingle, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana. As shown on a map of re-subdivision, Lot 4, Concord Canal subdivision, into lots 4-A, 4-B, 4-C, 4-D, and 4-E, Concord Canal subdivision, Belle Chase, Louisiana, by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, dated May 15, 2015. The owner having fulfilled all of the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost to the Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Okay, now the public hearing's open. Is there anyone like to speak on this matter? Anyone? All right, the public hearing is officially closed. Let's move 6A3, Ms. Barber.
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of Chester D. Wharton and Ava D. Hingle, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as shown on a map of re-subdivision Lot 4, Concord Canal Subdivision, into Lots 4A, 4B, 4C, 4D, and 4E, Concord Canal Subdivision, Belle Chase, Louisiana, by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, dated May 15, 2015. The owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
You offer, Mr. Russo?
I'll offer an extra second.
I'll second it. Okay. Are there any questions? Machine's open on the order. 6A.
No, I'm sorry.
And the ordinance is granted 8-0. Move to 7. The next 7B4, Ms. Barber.
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of property described as an undesignated parcel of Section 6 T18S R27E into lots 1A and 1B of Section 6 T18S R27E by Gilbert, Kelly, and Cochier, Inc., dated August 20, 2015. The owner having fulfilled the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
That ends the public hearing. Is there anyone to speak on this matter? Okay, the public hearing is closed. Go ahead and read 6A4, Ms. Barber.
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of property described as an undesignated parcel of Section 6 T18S R27E into lots 1A and B and 1B of Section 6 T18S R27E by Gilbert, Kelly, and Cochier, Inc., dated August 20, 2015. The owner having fulfilled the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
You offer, Ms. Salvan?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I so offer.
Okay, I'll second. Any questions? Machine is open on 6A4. And the ordinance is granted 8-0. Next one, 7-5.
An ordinance to amend and amended to readopt Section 4 of Ordinance Number 142, the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance of Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as amended in the Comprehensive Zoning District Map therein adopted by reference and which is paraph thereto, with reference to application number 2015-141 dated September 29, 2015.
You offer, Ms. Williams?
I'll offer, for the public hearing, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
This is the public hearing.
I apologize. Is there anyone to speak on this
Miss-
matter?
Kelly, would you like to come up and speak?
You have someone, Ms. Williams?
Yeah, Miss Kelly Small Silva's in the back.
Okay.
This relates to some in rezoning that she filed, or her father filed.
Okay. Can you give us your name and your address for the record?
Kellysville, 105 Adam Drive, Belle Chase, Louisiana, 70037.
Thank you. And Ms.
This
Williams?
this is, this went in front of the zoning board, with the intentions that they have, right now, they are zoned general commercial, and they have a license to sell fish. They're wanting to change the zoning to I3, heavy industrial, in order to be able to process and cut up fish. The zoning board required that it be denied due to the proximity of this location to other businesses as well as residents. If we rezone it to heavy industrial, any kind of hazardous business could develop there in the future. So I would like to honor the recommendation of the zoning board. But I just wanted Ms. Small to come up and, be able to speak on it if she would like.
You could tell it, what does it consist of, or what are you trying to do?
It's not cutting up a fish. This is Mr. Andy Scallon. He's actually leasing the building. He can explain everything that takes place.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
I'm Andrew Scott. I'm the president of Crabs Unlimited Company based out of Westwego, Louisiana. That's simply a buying station. We send a truck down there every day, and we buy from crabbers and from people who catch drumfish and sheephead and any other seafood we can get, but that's the main things it is. The fishermen bring us their catch. We put it in a box, put it on a truck, and it goes home. There's nothing stored there, nothing processed there, nothing cooked, nothing, no knife is put on anything.
But can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Why
rezone?
Why would it have to be zoned in I-3? We're using heavy industrial machinery? I mean, why is the zoning change necessary?
You tell Mitra, because I agree, Kirk, Mr. Lapine, what they have now fits that, the business that they're conducting. So what was their reason for wanting to rezone? Ms. Rose?
The problem was, they were first issued an occupational license. I had an agreement with Mr. Scallion to be able to take the crabs from the dock, bring them to the site, and then ship them out. That was the original agreement. After receiving numerous complaints from the people around there and myself going out to the site and seeing bed loads of trucks of fish with blood all over, so that meant they were cutting, gutting, and processing and doing other things besides what the license required them to do. After talking to Mr. Scallion, he wanted to continue the operation. So I said, if you are going to continue that operation, you need to change into the I-3, which is heavy industrial, for processing and storaging, packaging of any seafood. And that's what prompted the rezone, because more activity was being done than the original intent of the business.
But I-3 gives you full limitations.
Yes.
Could we do an I-2 in this case?
The classification only fit under I-3. I looked several different places. I don't recommend the I-3 because of the different impacts that it can open up. But as I told him before, if he would have just stuck to our agreement in the beginning, everything would have been fine. But other than that, I don't see any other zoning classification that fits the operation that he is doing there.
So technically, he's doing it right now.
He has closed.
He has closed.
Since he and I spoke on the phone, he gave me his word that he would not open up any operation or do anything until we go through the process. And he is not operating now.
When you do these things, or you cut up these fish or crabs, is it a big machinery that makes a lot of noise, or what is it?
No, what happened when we first started buying, we buy a lot of black drumfish. And the fishermen were bringing them in not gutted. So we told them they had to gut their fish. On the day she came down, what happened is they were gutting their fish, I guess in the parking lot. It's a small building. But we no longer do that. They have to eviscerate, they call it, their fish at sea. And they have to bring them to us in the finished state.
What is the apparatus or machinery that you use to chop up? Nothing?
No, sir. It's whole fish. They call it round fish is the industry term. Gutted round fish. I mean, there's nothing that's done to it, but except that it's gutted. We weigh it. We put it in these 1,000-pound cardboard vats on a pallet and ice it. Forklift goes on a truck. I think it was sort of bad luck on that. We were just starting with the fish, and they weren't clear about how we wanted them, and it was quickly resolved.
Mr. Lapine?
Yes.
If I may, it wasn't that it was the machinery that was the problem. It was just the process with the blood and the water going into the drainage system.
I have received calls from neighbors complaining that there were flies and just, it was just the way
Do we
that the
have residential
operation.
next door? or-
Yes, we
Yes,
do.
as well as businesses,
Yes, ma'am.
other businesses.
Okay. Any other questions? Ms. Williams, you want to move on this?
I would like to move to 6Z for the denial on the basis of the zoning board's recommendation, as well as the proximity it has to the
I'm
residences.
sorry, 6 what?
6Z,
Z. Okay. Thank you. Let's move to item 6Z.
A resolution denying the requested map change filed by Stephen Small from C-2 General Commercial Zoning District to I-3 Heavy Industrial Zoning District for property located at 36173 Highway 11, Buras, Plaquemines Parish, all in accordance with with application number 2015-141, dated September 29, 2015.
You offer, Ms. Williams?
yes, I do, sir.
Offer, can I get a second?
Yes, sir.
Second by Mr. Edgecombe. Any questions?
I have a question.
Go
Can they go back to processing?
Go ahead.
Can they go back using the original permit, picking up stuff right there and putting in their truck and hauling it?
I did speak to,
Can they do that after, you know?
yes, I spoke to Miss Small and to Mr. Scallion and told them if they revert back to just doing the buying of the crabs at the dock and then just shipping them out there with the cooler and the container, then we won't revoke the license. But if in the future any means are going outside of the ramifications, I will revert back to Ms. Williams to revoke the license.
Okay.
I've got a
Oh,
question.
y'all,
That's all I have.
I heard somebody, you had a question too. Mr. Edgecombe?
Yeah, actually, Mrs. Scott? Question, when they bring in crabs and y'all deport crabs, as far as any bad crabs, what do y'all do with the bad crabs that are on the premises? Do y'all put them in a garbage can? Do y'all bring them to the
We haul it
dump?
back to the main office in West Wego.
Okay, so
Don't
y'all
store
hauled off
any-
the bad crabs that y'all cannot sell?
We don't dispose any garbage there. Any garbage comes back is completely, anything that we buy, you're right. Dead crabs, a fisherman will sometimes bring in dead crabs, but that is hauled back. It's not put in a local garbage system or anything.
so are you in agreement to reverting back to what is originally stated, no cutting up, no, just packaging and hauling off?
Yes, I am in agreement. I don't know if we're going to be able to stay open without, can we buy fish? I mean, if we don't touch it, if we just put it in a. 'cause
Well,
we
that
buy-
was the original license
Fish and
that you were
crabs,
issued.
he can do it as long as there's no cutting, cleaning, and he has to also make sure he maintains the safe environment and no pollutants in the water, like to try to keep it sanitary. That's the words I'm looking for with the health department, and the DHH requirements. So he does need to contact those companies, as well as the local health department to see what are the regulations, and he had not done that.
So can you please do that if you continue going forward to buy your fish? Get with our local health, our Mr. Raymond with the health department here. Find out what the requirements are for you to comply with. You can help him with that?
I'm sorry, okay, I'll revisit that. We were told that as long as we had a Louisiana Health and Hospitals permit, that that's all we needed. But you're saying there's a department, in Plaquemines Department I need to contact?
No, just for your knowledge to be able to keep, what do you need to do to keep it sanitary as far as not putting pollutants in the water and things to that extent?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, I'll comply with whatever I need to do. I'm just trying to be clear. So we're already in compliance with the Louisiana Board of Health.
Well, according
You're
to
saying
Ms.
there's a Plaquemines
We do
Board of
have,
Health?
there is the state level that you do have to comply with, but you also have to comply with all local regulations and restrictions as well.
Okay.
But I'll get in touch with you
Okay.
after this, so
Thank you.
we'll go through that.
Mr. Russo has a question.
So, the state compliance you have is for your operation out of the parish?
Every location we have to have a state approval for the Wildlife and Fisheries, Department of Health and Hospitals.
So, the Plaquemines Parish has a special permit or a separate permit?
We have a permit we have 3 locations, and we have a permit in Buras as well for wildlife and fisheries and
I mean, through
Department
the
of-
state, right?
Yes, Louisiana Department of Health and Hospitals. We have occupational license, obviously. We've tried to do everything above board.
Okay. And the other question I have for Ms. Williams, we're following the recommendation of the zoning board, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's all I have, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you. I'll revert back to 6Z, and the machine is open on 6Z. And the resolution denying is approved 7-1 with a no vote from District 4. All right, Ms. Barber, can we read 7-6, B6?
Why don't you ask her to withdraw 685?
I did, huh? Did we, all right, can we withdraw 685?
I would like to withdraw 685.
Can you read the last 7?
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of Little Fish Inn LLC, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the map of re-subdivision property of Little Fish Inn LLC into lots LF-1 and LF-2, Boothville, Louisiana, by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, dated September 29, 2015. The owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivisions and re-subdivisions ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost of the Plaquemines parish government or the parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
This is the public hearing portion. Is anyone to speak on this matter? No one, then the public hearing is closed. Ms. Barber, would you read 6A6?
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of Little Fish Inn LLC, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown in the map of re-subdivision, property of Little Fish Inn LLC into lots LF-1 and LF-2, Boothville, Louisiana, by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, dated September 29, 2015. The owner having fulfilled all of the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost of Plaquemines parish government or the parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
You offer, Ms. Williams?
Yes, I'll offer as read, sir.
Ask for a second.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Trufant. Any questions? The machine is open on 6A6. And the ordinance. Ms. Audrey? For it? And the ordinance is granted 7-0. Okay. We'll move to item 6B.
An ordinance authorizing an emergency exception to the hiring freeze currently enacted on all vacant positions of Plaquemines Parish government for the ambulance and firefighting departments positions, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Offer with changes
Mr. Burt.
on behalf of Mr. Burt.
Okay, can you read the changes, Mr.?
Hey, Ed. I believe in section 1, there's 3 changes. I want to say the original ordinance had them blank. This is to add 1 EMT intermediate, 1 EMT paramedic, and 1 firefighter operator. Did someone second this?
With those changes you offer,
Yes.
has been changes in. Can I ask for a second? Second by Ms. Williams.
I spoke to Chief Roy Robichaux and asked him about these 3 positions. He told me that he does not intend to hire these individuals as of yet. He is going through the process, as you know, of consolidating the ambulance department within the fire department. He wants to just get an idea of if he's going to need people, and if he does need people, we'll already have approved it, and then he can go ahead and hire them at that time. He may or may not need them. I will make note, though, to finance in the future, when, and I've spoken to Mr. Serpaz already about it, when you do these ordinances or resolutions in reference to the ambulance and fire department, there is no ambulance department anymore. So in the preamble, you have ambulance department, and also later on in a couple different sections, you have ambulance department. If you want to put a line item under the firefighting fund or the fire department, do that as a line item, as ambulance services. Talk to Roy, and that's fine. Okay, well, just change the line item in financing, that way it doesn't cause any conflict, and, get direction from Director Giles on that as well, and how you want to handle it. But no, he has no intention of hiring now. We just want to go ahead and move on this to be able to advertise in the case that he does need it. That's all I have.
You good? Any questions from the table?
The only point I'll make is that it comes out of the 1 cent sales tax versus the general fund.
That is correct, absolutely correct.
Thank you, Mr. Henry.
Could you still tell the public how much your street position gonna cost?
Yeah, let me see if I can find it. This is on behalf of Mr. Byrd, so I don't have the full legislation. Yeah, I want to say the firefighter intermediate is probably about 40 to 42, and I think the EMT intermediate's a little bit less. Paramedic's probably a little bit more. I don't have the complete breakdown of the actual pay, Mr. Henry, but that's a roundabout figure, an estimated figure on those three positions.
Anyone else? The machine is open on 6B. And the ordinance is granted 7-0.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
may we move to item 6Y, please? Mr. Becknell with the YMCA is here. And
Sure.
he's been here quite a while.
Okay. Can you read 6Y,
Thank you.
Ms. Barber?
An ordinance authorizing and directing Parish President Amos J. Cormier Jr. to enter into and execute a cooperative endeavor agreement with Young Men's Christian Association, YMCA, CEO Gordon Lodge, to implement a 2-year agreement with the right of either party to extend this agreement for a 2-year option to provide parish resident services and programs through 3 parish community centers in Boothville, Buras, and Port Sulphur, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Thank you. Ms. Williams, you offering?
I'll offer, but with changes.
Okay.
I don't have them to distribute, but I just would like to change the 2-year option to 2-year agreement to a 1-year agreement. On line 11,
Line 11, okay.
with the option to renew every 1 year. On line 12. Just changing the 2-year to 1 year due to the budget crisis. We'll
Okay.
take it year by year.
You offer with those changes? Now, do you have, is it in the preamble too?
I have some changes. You want me to read them out?
Go ahead, Mr. Russell.
On line 3,
Yeah.
at the end of the line, delete 2, insert 1. On line 4,
It's the preamble.
all right, go to line 11.
Well, before we go on to that, Mr. Russo, she wants to change it outside the preamble in the whereas, but the preamble still stays the same. Is that a conflict, Ms. Secretary?
It's been done before, but it's kind of, it doesn't really make sense. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you change it within the body in the whereas, but you don't change the preamble.
No, I would like to change it altogether, but I thought we couldn't change the preamble. We can't.
Right, you can't, but it's going to pass. If we pass it, it's going to pass as 2 in the preamble, it's going to pass as 1 in the whereas.
Well, that wouldn't make sense.
Well, that wouldn't make sense.
Right, exactly.
Whatever, offer a substitute motion.
Right.
You want to substitute motion?
Substitute motion where you can change everything.
Offer a substitute
Yeah,
motion.
let's do that.
With
yeah.
these changes. On line 3, delete 2, add the number 1. On line 4, after agreement, scratch the remainder of the line. Put 1 in there, excuse me, on line 4. On line 11, change it from 2 to 1. And on line 40,
12 as well. Line 12, change 2 to 1.
12.
Year 16 to 17, okay.
Got it.
I also would like to make it,
Where do you open the substitute?
And delete the remainder line of 40 after 2016. On line 51, just change the 1 to 2 to 1.
Wait, hold on.
No, I meant you
Okay.
can't talk to me while he's
Okay.
reading.
wait,
Okay,
You got it
yeah,
all?
got it.
Make sure Kim's got it all.
I got
that's
it.
what I'm wanting to make sure.
Okay.
You got it, Kim?
I have it.
She got it.
Let me ask a question too, Kim. Is there any way that we can, I would like to make this retroactive back to January 1, so it happens at the beginning of each year as opposed to April?
Okay.
Is that a problem, or can that be done as well?
I think I mean, if y'all in agreement
Well,
with it being
you might want to
done.
think about giving them, in case something happens with the budget and we can't go next year, they'll have a transition period from January to April to know what they're
Couple
going
of
to do.
months, yeah.
If that happens, so it might be better, because we don't adopt the budget till December, and then they know, and then January the 1st, they cut off, they may have a little scrambling to do. It's just an idea if you want to leave it.
Okay, Mr. Becknell, are you, okay.
Okay, and I have a question. Ms. Williams, on line 37.
Yeah, we do need a second.
I need a second
Okay.
for the substitute first.
Got you.
Okay.
Second by Mr. Edgecombe, okay.
Okay, on line 37, the legacy campaign is stated, is there any such a animal?
No, that needs to be, I would suggest that be removed as well, because I don't think that's no longer in existence,
Okay,
to my
wait.
knowledge.
That's what I thought.
All right. Mr. Edgecombe, will you remove your second?
I took it.
Okay, and now, what you scratching out?
Scratching out the legacy
It's the
campaign?
Thank you,
on-
Ms.
on
Salvant.
37?
37.
Okay. Now, are we good?
He's seconded.
Mr. Edgecombe, second?
Yeah, he's
Okay.
second.
All right. All right, with those changes, we substitute. Are there any questions from the table? Audience? Mr. Henry?
Bob, when you negotiate this agreement with the president, I hope you all could come to some agreement to at least let underprivileged kids swim at least twice in the summer, at least twice. At least come to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? The machine is open on 6Y. And the ordinance is granted 7-0.
Thank you.
Where are we at, 7F, Kim?
Correct.
6F, huh?
6F.
Revert back to 6F.
A resolution appointing the members of the Audit Committee of the Plaquemines Parish Council for 2016 pursuant to Section 7.08 of Article 7 of the Chapter of Local Self-Government, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
You offer Mr. Black on Mr. Burt's behalf? Do you have a-
No, this is on mine.
Okay, this is Mr. Burt's, but I thought he,
I mean, I don't,
He didn't
I
tell me
would,
any-
but I don't have names.
I don't have names either. Yeah, I'll defer this legislation. I don't have names.
I can give you the name.
I didn't. Going to Q. We'll move to 6Q.
An ordinance to rescind, annul, and set aside ordinance number 15-123 and to add language to agenda item 6A to allow for public hearings and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Russo, you offering?
Yes, I'll offer.
Next for a second.
I'm second.
Second by Ms. Williams. Mr. Russo?
Yes, what this does, it gets us out of having the language duplicated on the agenda. As you notice, we go back and forth from reading the public hearing, then going back to the item on the agenda. This will put us back in the mode with adding language to the agenda that declares that the one listing on the agenda is for the public hearing as well as anything else. So that'll clarify the agenda, and that's what this does.
Thank you, Mr. President. Any questions? The machine is open on 6Q. Huh? No. Do it again. The machine's open. And the ordinance is granted 7-0. Move to 6R.
An ordinance to amend the 2016 General Fund Operating Expenditure Budget, Farm and Home Economics Department, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
You offer, Mr. Russo?
I'll offer.
I'll second it. Go ahead.
Yes, if you'd like to come up and talk about where we're at with this. Well, what this does, we are taking and amending the operational budget, and we are taking out $33,000 from the unreserved undesignated fund balance and transferring $16,774 out of your operational budget into the line item for salaries and wages to maintain your office so it stays open.
Yes, sir.
And that's what this does.
Yes, sir. Do you need me to speak to that?
If there are any questions,
Is there any questions from the table?
I'll offer it.
I'll second.
You second it?
Yeah, I second it.
Okay.
You good?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Machine's open. And the ordinance is granted 7-0. Move to 6S.
A resolution authorizing the Plaquemines Parish Community Action Center to prepare the necessary application to the Louisiana Housing Corporation for a grant to provide utility assistance to the residents of Plaquemines Parish for the fiscal year 2016, and authorizing the President of the Plaquemines Parish government to sign and submit said application and contract.
I'll offer next for a second.
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Salvan. Go ahead, Mr. Russo.
What this does is allow us to continue applying for home energy assistance to eligible households within the parish. Energy assistance.
Any questions? Machine is open on 6S. And the resolution is granted 7-0. Move to 6T.
A resolution authorizing the Plaquemines Parish Community Action Agency to prepare and file an application with the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development on behalf of the Plaquemines Parish government for a grant under 49 CFR 5311 Non-Urbanized Area Formula Program and/or 49 CFR Discretionary Capital Program as amended, and to provide public rural transportation to the residents of Plaquemines Parish, and further authorizing Plaquemines Parish President to execute and file with such application and assurance or any other documents required.
You offer, Mr. Russo?
I'll offer next for a second.
Next, a second. Anyone?
Second.
Second by Mr. Juneau.
What this does, this is a Community Action Agency Transit grant that we participate in. And if you have any questions, it's a 50-50 match.
Any questions? Machine is open on 6T. And the resolution is granted 7-0. Move to 6U.
An ordinance to amend the 2016 General Fund Operating Expenditure Budget, City and Ward Court Department, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
There's two blanks here. They got it. There's two blanks? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm on B. My bad. Okay. Offer it. Mr. Burt would like to move on this. I'm offering on his behalf. Ask for a second. second by Ms. Salvant. I think it's just transferring money to the city court department, $6,200. Any questions?
You want me to answer it?
Hmm?
You want me to answer it?
Go ahead.
This, what this does, this funds the Justice of the Peace, I believe it is, that we took out of the budget, and due to the law that Supreme Court says we got to fund it until the legislature changes us from the 10-ward system. I think Mr. Burt's intention is to put this back into the budget.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, but someone's collecting it.
Okay. The machine's open on 6U. And the ordinance passed 7-0. Move to 6V.
An ordinance authorizing an emergency exception to the hiring freeze currently enacted on all vacant positions of Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
You, Mr. Black, you offer?
Yeah, I'm going to offer on behalf of
Some
Councilmember
changes?
Burt with some changes.
Okay.
I gave it to the administration already. Barbara, you need a copy? Hey, give me one copy. Yeah, basically the changes are going to be on, from lines 18 to 28. Let me just read, I'll just read the changes out and not read what it's changed to. 18 should read solid waste north, 1 truck driver 2. Line 19, solid waste north, 1 helper. Line 20, solid waste south, 1 truck driver 2. 21, waterworks, billings collections, 1 clerk, 1. Line 22, telecommunications, 1 communications manager. Line 23, flood control, 1 heavy equipment operator 1. Line 24, flood control, 1 diesel mechanic. 25, flood control, 1 secretary. Line 26, road maintenance prom, 2 tractor driver 2s. Line 27, courthouse security, 1 security officer. And line 28, ferries, bell chase, 1 deckhand. I'll explain how we get to those changes after we come up with a second, if we do.
With those changes you're offering, thanks for a second. Second by Ms. Williams. Mr. Black?
Yeah, Mr. Burt drafted this, this legislation, asked me to introduce it. Before I did, I introduced the offer. Before I did, I wanted to do some research, talk to finance. The administration was asking for 22 new positions. Out of those 22, only 9 of them were funded during the budget hearings. So I talked to a few of the departments to address their needs, as well as finance, and we narrowed it down to, so we cut it down to 12 different positions. The other positions that were included in it were telecommunications, which is the communications manager on line 22. That position is currently filled, but the employee is intending to retire soon, and we need to fill that position. And the person who's a telecommunications assistant manager is going to retire again as well in July. And it's my intention we won't even refill that position. We'll just have to have one person in. You know, if you guys have any other questions on any of the positions, solid waste north and south doesn't come out of the general fund. Solid waste has their own fund, as you know, so those salaries won't affect the general fund.
During the budget hearings. Is that what you're saying, Mr.?
Yeah, plus telecommunications, and I want to say a couple of these positions were the transfers
From animal control.
from the animal control. Yeah, so that was the other 2. So that equals the 12.
Any other questions?
I mean, if anybody has any ideas with amendments, I don't think personally that we need to be hiring people. We did fund these before, I mean, because we may be laying people off in the next few months if our revenue is not sustained. I would ask the administration, instead of asking to hire people, maybe we can find creative ways to relocate personnel if personnel is in a position where you could spare that person, and it's a lateral transfer, transfer them into a more needed, a critical role, following the civil service laws. Besides that, that's all I have.
I have one question. Reverend Giles. Yes, sir. For the ferry, didn't you have 4 deckhands down to be hired?
That is correct.
What is the problem with just one?
I'll let Joey come explain to you.
Well, we had 2 positions already open whenever we went into the budget. Those people transferred out of the department into another department before the freeze, so that left me with those 2 positions open. I have one that was fired a couple weeks ago, and I have another one that's going to be quitting come next Friday. And that gives me my 4 positions.
And so the 4 positions are funded in the budget now?
I know 2 of them is for sure. I think the other 2 are. I'm not sure if y'all pulled that out or they
We
was
have
still.
2 that are definitely funded. The 2 that you fired and that's getting ready to quit, of course, is funded.
Right.
So all
So
4
that's
funded?
all. Yes, sir.
And you want to elaborate on the operational issue with?
We have to have full crews on the boat, and with those 4 positions open right now, it's getting hard to move people around because you have 16 people every day working on the boats. And if you have people all sick, if you have those 4 positions open, and I'm taking people from the maintenance department filling those positions, and somebody calls in sick, then you're trying to get somebody that's off to come in, which you're paying them overtime. So it's trying to cut a lot of overtime out. It's a lot easier to keep things moving on a normal basis and,
So you're
keeping
filling the
everything
vacancies
steady.
with overtime?
Sir?
You're filling the vacancies with overtime?
Well, I'm trying not to, but it's getting hard because sometimes those 4 positions end up in the same week. And I have to put 4 people there, and if anybody calls in sick or had vacation scheduled, then I have to put somebody else in that position. And, you're trying to only make these people make 40 hours a week, and it ends up, in those positions.
You consider the deckhand as a critical position?
Oh, I have to. I have to have
Okay.
2 deckhands, engineer and a captain on the boat.
So then I would
Coast Guard
suggest in the future, unless there's a immediate need, don't transfer them to another department.
I didn't, all that was done before the freeze.
You know what I mean?
They transferred out. I mean, that's not my call to tell
I mean,
somebody.
that's all I would
they can't
ask,
go.
if the council decides to amend this and give you 4 deckhands.
Right.
Don't transfer critical needed people out of the department to fill.
Right. That's not my call to transfer somebody
Okay.
from one department to another. So,
And Joey, just for the record, one of these deckhands will be a toll taker as of February 1st?
no, all my deckhands are toll takers.
That's what I'm saying, but one
That's-
will
I
be
use them as a
one
toll
will be
taker.
utilized as a toll taker.
We do in Belchase already.
I know, but I
Yes.
mean, we're
Oh,
gonna,
well, both
we're
boats
gonna
on-
do both sides now
Yeah,
and Point
that'll
Lahette.
be February 1st.
And we starting on Point,
Point
you
Lahette
mentioned
is
you're
February
starting
1st.
on February 1st. So the ramp's been inspected, it's safe?
Well, it's always been safe, but Point LaHash, you just can't cross the oversized vehicles. And we would have to get with Ken Dugas to see what the inspectors for the state had. I can't remember when they did it a couple of years ago, but they said do not cross. They don't recommend crossing oversized.
Okay. Somebody just made the comment at the last meeting, when I asked about the Point Lahetch Ferry, why we weren't collecting tolls, and they said the ramps were unsafe.
No,
So
I think-
that's my question was, well, if the ramps are unsafe, why are we using that
I
ferry?
think at the time it was because all the vessels wasn't inspected. I mean, I was a captain then, so I don't know what the purpose was, why we didn't collect down the road, whether there wasn't enough vehicles crossing at the time, or I'm not sure on all of that. I wasn't in charge. The reason for that.
But you feel it's safe?
Well, I mean, I'm going by what the inspectors say for the state, what we were told,
Do we have a safety person, Mr. Cormier, that we can maybe have go down and just make sure? I hate to put our residents at any kind of risk.
Well, the state inspects it and the Coast Guard, I mean, so,
Well,
and that supersedes, the state would supersede anything we can inspect.
We could get that paperwork from Ken Dugas. He has
The
what the
reason why
state sent us.
the reason why I'm asking, and we can go back on the tape, it was mentioned by folks within administration at the last meeting that
the ramps were not safe. So I'm just,
No, if I recall correctly, Mr. Giles said the ramps are safe, but the ferries, they cannot hold the weight of oversized vehicles coming onto the ferry.
That small boat down there can't do it. But I mean, the ramp in Point LaHash is not the greatest ramp in the world. It's not like the one at Belchase, you
Right.
know. It does need work, it does need repairs, and, we were told don't cross oversizes, so that's what we don't do.
okay, well, if it's safe, it's safe, that's good. I just want to make sure we're not putting any
Like
of
I said,
our,
we can
any of
get
our
the
residents in any
paperwork.
kind of jeopardy.
Yeah, we can
That's
get
what
the
I had heard.
paperwork from Ken Dugas, what the state gave us.
Okay, that's fine. I don't have a problem if anybody wants to amend 28.
I just have a question on personnel.
Go ahead, Mr.
Mr. Harton, okay, I know what a deckhand is, I know what the captain does. What does the engineer do?
Engineer operates the engine room, fire
So he's in
pumps,
the, in the
everything.
engine room 24/7?
Yes.
Okay, Mr.
Mr. Chairman, the administration would also like to point out, in regards to saving money, if we get a mechanic that's qualified, then the parish saves an enormous amount of money during the course of the year, because we don't have to send it off to spend money to get it fixed. We can do it in-house. So, the
I think-
diesel mechanic position, we could probably use another one.
I think we, Mr. Russo would like to make an amendment.
On line 28.
I gotta remove this second.
Hmm?
Remove the second first.
I was just gonna make an amendment,
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
but anyway, whatever you wanna do.
let me remove your second. I'll remove your second, Ms. Williams, and go ahead, Mr. Wood.
On line 28, just, change 1 to 4.
1 to 4 deckhands.
One of the positions is in Point LaHash, so it'd have to be.
Well, I was just gonna take and just put ferries, Belchase / Point LaHash.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, why is there a difference anyway? I mean, a ferry,
Division, it's the budget, the way it's budgeted, there's 3, there's ferries general, ferries Belchase, and ferries Point LaHash. And that's where the money is budgeted.
It's kind of crazy because we move our people where we need them. If we have somebody that wants to transfer to Point LaHash, you know, when we have it open, we transfer them there, and then it messes up because that person was getting paid out of Belchase and not Point LaHash, and Point LaHash out of Belchase. Right, right.
Okay, so we amended it, took out 1, and we put 4 deckhands. With that, Ms. Williams, you a second?
Yes, I will.
Okay. All right, any more questions? The machine is open on 6B.
Thank you.
And the ordinance is granted 7-0. Thank you, Joey. Move to 6W.
A resolution authorizing the parish president or his designee to offer the commercial lease of the old LSU Agricultural Research Station and to negotiate, sign, and execute and enforce a commercial lease agreement between Plaquemines Parish government and a suitable lessor willing and able to pay market rate, therefore and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Ms. Salvant, you offering?
I'd like to offer at least for discussion, and I would like to relinquish the mic to either to Mr. McCarthy or to the administration.
Okay, let me get a second on that.
I'll second for discussion.
The second for discussion. So it's been offered and second for discussion. Janet, can you clear the machine? 6W's been offered and second for discussion. The machine's open. No? Okay, I'm
No.
sorry. All right. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. McCoy.
Thank you. What's going to happen is that we're going to try to take over the LSU Ag Center for the purpose of nurturing energy plants. I'm hoping seriously that they're going to go ahead and give me the funding for my first project in Plaquemine Parish tomorrow, or at least tell me where it's at. The plant that we're deciding to build will employ 150 people at least. the plants that we will be taking, we'll be leasing quite a bit of land throughout the parish. And when we go into the thing, I will also bring in 2 herbs, one of which, if you can see my hand, you can tell how it's been with arthritis. I don't have any pains in it. And we would go ahead, and anybody that lives in Plaquemine Parish, we would give them the tea that we could make out of the plants. It will take all the pain out of arthritis, but it won't cure arthritis. We have another plant that we'll bring in with tropical tea, and it will reverse the effects of diabetes. In both of these plants, it requires the drinking of about a quarter of a cup each morning. That will be something that we'll give to the parish as long as the person has a, medical
Mr.
certificate.
Mickey, hold on one second, got a question.
Mr. Mickey, let me see what's before us. What's before us is an authorization to allow the president or his designee to negotiate and put this out on the market. So you might not want to give all your secrets away at the mic right now because you're going to be in a competitive position to try to get this property.
I like competition.
Well, good, but we'd like to move on, so.
Yeah, so it's more of a discussion, but
This is something that
we understand
will
what you-
allow the president to put out for bid, and you're going to be able to submit on it. And that's where we're at with, that's what's before us right now. So, I mean, I don't know if there's any opposition to it, but I don't know anything that you say at the podium is going to make it pass any easier.
Okay.
If the plant goes through, just one more statement.
Okay.
If the plant goes through, and I'm given the plant 18 months approximately, because it'll take 6 months to construct the plant. In first 12 months of operation, I will offer to the parish $3 million to pay their electric bill. If anybody's got a better deal than that, let me know.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarty.
And Mr. Chairman, we will be working with Mr. McCarty and have been attending all of his meetings.
Right, but my point is that this is containing an appraisal of the subject property and a fair market value, and all of that has to be done. So it's going to be an open market, open competition for the lease of the property. That's my only point.
And that's what I want to make sure of before we come back next week and decide to vote on it, that we maybe change this legislation to where it comes back before the council before we make a decision on who's going to be the tenant.
Well, this doesn't allow them to do anything with a tenant. It allows them to contain an appraisal, look for advertisement for someone who leases it.
No, it says on the preamble, and to negotiate, sign, and execute and enforce a commercial lease agreement between the Plaquemine Parish government and a suitable lessor.
Right.
So, yeah, right, based on those facts, but it doesn't say that it has to come back before the council to make a determination.
Well, if you want to make that amendment.
Yeah, I will next week before it, I mean,
But what, my question would be, what is the position of the administration in regards to this lease moving forward?
Discussion dates on the agenda for adoption.
I think we've stated that just a while ago. I mean, I've been working with Mr. McCarty to try and advance some of his projects.
but the problem is, we can't just
We
talk to
can't-
an individual
Right.
without opening up to the general public and give them
Exactly.
an opportunity to lease it. We can't have private discussions with a private company to lease this parrot.
Bottom
to
line
lease-
is, Mr. Black, we don't want to mislead Mr. McCarthy with,
I'm not worried about the competition. If you want to
Okay.
go that way, we can go that way. Okay, I understand that. Tomorrow, I am supposed to get the funding for my first plant that I will build in Plaquemine Parish.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you.
Mr. Lawrence has a question. Mr. Lawrence?
My only question is the legality of it going out as a resolution. Would it have to be an ordinance according to the charter that you encumbering this property into a lease form without, I don't know if we can, or you can actually do this in a resolution form. So My question was legally, would it have to be an ordinance, and would it have to go out, like Mr. Russo said, just as an open bid process? And no matter if somebody's using it, Mr. McCarthy has great ideas, and I agree, but I want the property to be used, but I question if you can do this by resolution.
But I think we can go
Okay.
out on the resolution, as long as dollar figure is not mentioned.
I can fix the problem real quick. If you look, allow me to make this amendment. If we're gonna vote on this.
No, it's discussion only.
No, we're not.
No,
Well, then there's no sense in talking about it anymore.
You're
but
gonna
I
have to
would-
change the preamble too, though, Mr. Russo,
That's all.
because that's the meat of
All right.
the argument, because it does authorize them to execute the lease. Now, another question is, and this is just to think about for the next 2 weeks, is we have had debate on whether or not we need 2/3 vote for a lease, or we need just a simple majority vote. So I don't see any of our attorneys in the room, but that's a question that our attorneys need to answer, Mr. President. So we don't get stuck in a situation where we go with a majority vote and it's not 2/3 and we don't know what to do. I mean,
Mr. Henry?
the order is not clear on that.
My point is, once the appraisal is made, would it come back to the people? So, you're gonna make a private appraisal, or the appraisal gonna be set forth back to the people? It need to
Made
be.
public?
Yeah,
Should be made public.
Yeah.
okay, all right. I'm gonna hold
Okay,
you
well,
to
we're
that.
gonna-
I'm gonna hold you to it.
Okay, this discussion is, you want ended? All right, we're gonna move on. The
Yes,
discussion-
we're gonna defer this item.
Yes, this item will be deferred. Move to item 6X.
A resolution appointing 2 members to fill vacancies on the Coastal Zone Management Committee.
Mr. Edgecombe, you offering?
Yes, sir.
Second by Mrs. Williams. This is just 2 replacement people?
Well, what it is, of course, Richie Blink, he's moved on to higher ground. I think he'll do well. Miss Albertine Kimball is one to fill Mr. Blink's seat, which it was under Representative Strippers.
Okay.
And also, we have to insert Mrs. Shane Landry as the legal department because Mr. Mike Mullins not being here.
Okay.
So,
Any questions from the table? Audience? The machine's open on 6Y.
X.
X. And the resolution is granted 7-0.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move to 7A. Mr. Bartholomew said he wishes to defer it. We went through all of 6, 7. We'll move to item 7C. 7C, update presentation, District 7. Ms. Trufant, Salvin?
Couple of questions to pose to the administration, and I would like our administration to just give an update on the Myrtle Grove breach and also the Myrtle Grove drainage system as it relates to the broken to collapsed culverts in that area. Mr. Wallace and I and Greg Simpson from the Drainage Control had we did a tour of Myrtle Grove area and in and around the borrow pits in that area, and I just need somebody from the administration to bring the public up to date on what transpired.
I'll let Director Wallace brief you on the breach. In regards to statements you made earlier about the Corps, as you're well aware of, or should be aware of, the Corps is in the process of looking at alternatives for the subject you brought up, and they stated that it would probably take 2 or 3 months before they could get back. So that's why you haven't had any type of meeting, because they're in the process of determining whatever they're going to proceed with.
Yeah, but
Mr.
in regards to that comment, Mr. Cormier, why wasn't this brought out previously? I just asked the administration to give me some feedback on that.
I thought that you were informed about that, the Corps. We can't do anything without the Corps.
Are you referring to the permit for the 44 boat sheds?
Yeah, the culverts, they're looking at culverts underneath the drainage canal and so forth. And I know Mr. Wallace took you on a tour and addressed all of these issues, I guess, this past week.
No, we didn't discuss the 44 boat sheds, but we can have an update on the breach and the collapsed culverts, just for the public.
You got several culverts in the front that need to be replaced going into that, to the village, whatever you want to call it. You are in the back, you can't get water to your pump because the canal is closed back there. And once upon a time, we could take care of that. I'm looking at, I tell you what, I'm not happy camper right here listening to the last conversation with the employees that I was supposed to be. Somebody promised said they was gonna put them on, cut them all off there. So the things that I used to could do, you can't do it anymore. But yours is mostly drainage from the back canal. I don't have nothing to help you out with no more. It's sold the 2 drag lines. What else I could say about that? But the tour we had, I explained to you how the water gets to the back, and I showed you that what you need. And I look right here today in this council that I needed 4 operators to just keep me going, and Mr. Bird had 4. I end up with 1. I need 2 mechanics to keep up the machine. I got 1 that I could get. So you really, all I could do is cut grass for you. At the breach, which one? Oh, the breach? Okay. When we get some dry weather, I can't mess with that levee right now. We get a week or so of dry weather somewhere like that. I will replace those stones we got in there and put your levee back together. That's that I could do. I got machinery and stuff for that.
Okay, maybe a question, I'm not sure I'm following you on all that, but maybe a question, another question in regards to the pumping station. It was expressed to the community and myself in my presence that the new drainage system would be draining in the marsh, not the Wilkinson Canal. But I was told by Mr. Greg Simpson on that day of the tour that it would in fact be draining in the Wilkinson Canal.
Yes.
Can you address that?
No, I'm not the expert with that. Greg Simpson knows more than I know about that, and we talked about some things we could do to help you. I had to get with Greg when he's the expert with it. He's been doing it for 25, 30 years, so he knows.
Mr. Lawrence, do you remember that conversation that we had?
Mr. Cormier had arranged a meeting, or you had asked to have a meeting, and we had a meeting with Mr. Blair Rittner. Mr. Cormier was there at the time, and we discussed this, and he was supposed to go back to the Corps. When we originally met with the Corps, Ms. Julie LeBlanc, they agreed that the discharge from the new station would go into the marsh and not back into the Wilkinson. As you're well aware, we have nothing but contaminant problems in there. You know, of when that pumping station discharges, the contaminants that go from the marsh are going back into the Wilkinson Canal. I went to the Corps inspector on the job last Saturday. I went to the contractor on the job. They have still not made an amendment to the plans to change the direction. The direction will, as it stands today, will go back into the Wilkinson Canal. They will make a temporary canal cut in the levee to go into the marsh temporarily, but then close it, tear down the station, reopen the levee back into the Wilkinson. Mr. Blair Mr. Blair, I don't know if he's here, but he had promised us here we'd get back with the Corps on us. We haven't heard anything on it. The station is supposed to go into, in February, to go into a trial mode to actuate that station, just circulating. It will not be cutting the levee and doing anything now. And there is no plans yet to salvage our drainage system, which goes to the old station, has to go uphill right now. I mean, we need some kind of meeting with the Corps to know what is going to solve the problems of both Myrtle Grove as far as their drainage system as well as the discharge. Our previous president assured us it's going into the marsh. And it's just that we just face a battle that we need help. And I don't know if the administration, you know, they say it's up to the Corps. The Corps should deal with the parish and find out what the parish. They don't run this parish. They should have somebody from the parish. If the Corps is making plans on what's happening in this parish, we should have somebody representing the parish to discuss this with the Corps. That's ridiculous to say the Corps is going to make the decision and you stuck with what they do. They are here to serve us just like all our government's supposed to serve us. And this is ridiculous to say that. Ms. Audrey has asked for this meeting. Mr. Blair said he was going to get the people down here. That's on the bays for the boat sheds. Where's the canal? We don't know anything. They're making plans without getting the public involved. And I think this is a sad situation for somebody to tell us we're waiting on the Corps to tell us what they're going to do. We should have input in what's going to happen.
When we say we're waiting on the Corps to make a decision, they are looking at alternatives. So we're waiting, in other words, to get some of the alternatives which may provide us with the answers that we would like to have for the parish. Now, I have to remind you that the West Point-Lahash levee, we got the Corps to change the direction of that and save some properties for the people in West Point-Lahash. So when you want a meeting, as I've told you many times, and I think I did take you, I know I'd taken Mr. Mudge up to meet the Corps, Mr. Colonel Hanson, in person. So in other words, any time that you want to have something like that, we will try to have that meeting put together for you.
I think Ms. Audrey asked for that meeting. I mean, whether it's with me, it's immaterial. If she can't get a meeting with Colonel Hanson or whoever else makes those decisions, it's sad. It's not whether
The only
me or
person
Mike
that asked
Mudge-
for a meeting with Colonel Hanson from Myrtle Grove was Mr. Mudge,
Well-
which we had the meeting with him. Now, I'll be glad to take you or Miss Salvan, anybody else to meet with Colonel
Mr.
Hanson. He's a
Cormier,
great guy,
Did we have
and we'll
to
meet with him
specify
and
that we
discuss
wanted
it.
to meet with Mr. Hanson? We
Yeah.
wanted to get clarity of the drainage, so if it means meeting with Mr. Hanson, that's what you needed, that's what needed to happen. We didn't specify who we wanted to meet
No.
with.
I just,
I don't care
I'm
if it's
trying to-
Hanson or
I'm
the
trying to figure
project
out what
manager.
you're saying. I mean, until we get the alternatives, we don't know what position they're going to take.
Well, and we should be involved in what position they're going to take.
Well, we've already stated to Colonel Hanson, and you're right, that it should not be going in the Wilkerson Canal. So they're trying to come up with alternatives. That's what they're doing.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. You're beating around the
Mr. Russo,
bush.
Mr. Russo has a question.
I'll give you this copy. This is a 95% review of the levee and the drainage system for the Corps, as it has been around for quite a while. And it's my understanding that the project is now moved out of Vicksburg into the New Orleans office. And I have also requested a meeting, and I'll request it again through the administration, to meet with the new people who are going to be in charge of the project if they've moved it from Vicksburg to New Orleans. So I would ask that we have a meeting to get an update and to see what the situation is, because I'd love to know what was spent on planning, design, and studies as compared to putting dirt on the levee out of the $700+ million that was appropriated for the non-fed levees on the West Bank. So if I ever hear of a meeting, I will definitely ask those questions.
Like I said, I have this plan, and, you know, this is not a definite plan. If it was, then you have every right to deny the permit for the boat sheds, because that's where it's going. But you have made no attempt to say you're going to have to acquire this property. We already have an ordinance in effect that we can't even negotiate to buy that property.
Well,
Unless, you know.
Yeah, when you get up there and you start saying "you," I think
Well, I don't mean, I mean.
Well, I hope you would clarify that, because
Well, okay, yeah, I don't mean you. I mean that
Thank
the
you.
administration has people involved that are directly involved in what's happening here. And they're not coming forth and sharing. This was supposed to be an open and completely, they ran on their position to be open.
Transparent.
And be open and tell us, if this is in the status that it's in now, who's designing it? Somebody's getting paid to keep changing these designs.
Right.
If that's the court doing it, at least come to the people and say, what's you're going to be left with when they finish.
That's my point about how much was spent versus
Right.
construction.
Well.
So I would hope the administration would set up a meeting where we can attend and find out who the new players are, if it's changed from Vicksburg to New Orleans.
Yeah, they change the players every 2 years.
Thank you, Mr.
We will make every attempt to set up that meeting for anyone that's interested.
I'm interested.
I want to make one comment, just to, Ms. Audrey had asked Stanley Wallace a question. Mr. Wallace made a response, which, a little disturbs me a little bit. First of all, Mr. Byrd didn't go through and figure out what those positions were. That was given to him by Finance. Finance also went to all departments and asked them what positions needed to be filled. It's the council's job to go through and determine which positions are critical and which positions we have money for, okay? We don't have any money, period. So what I would urge the directors to do is to sit with Finance and look for funded positions. You asked us originally to fill unfunded positions. We're just asking to go find funded positions that maybe you can laterally transfer the title, you know what I mean? Instead of us coming up with more money and funding new positions, just find funded, unfilled positions, get with civil service and transfer that title, and it's easier for us to do, Mr. Wallace. We'd like to get more people, obviously, because we need to get work done. But that's something that needs to be done, not here at the table, but between yourself, other directors, and the finance department. And then when it comes to us, we know that those positions are already funded and unfilled, therefore we can fill them without having to come up with extra money to fund unfunded positions. That's it.
In my department, in my department right there, we have crossed over, we got the dog pond people, we got the leftover secretary we sprayed out. We sprayed out all the people that we could put out. But in that particular department, you can't get anybody off the street and put them on a machine. You can't get anybody to go run a dozer or run a backhoe or tell them to do this today. You would not want me put a guy, wait. You would not want me to put one of these green guys in your backyard to straighten your yard up with those with your house.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that. And as far as the dog, as far as
those
people went to, one went to Ferris and one went to Community Action, the other two quit out of solid waste. So, but I'm talking about the positions that, I'm not saying hire somebody green to go run a dozer or a backhoe or excavator or whatever. I'm saying is if you have a position that is a dozer operator and it's unfunded, go find another position that's vacant, that's funded, and transfer that funding to the unfunded position. That way we don't have to create new funding. That's all I'm saying. The finance can do that, but it's easier for us to fill a funded position. You guys do it behind the scenes and transfer that funding, and we'll fill it. But we're not going to create funding for an unfunded position. We don't have the money. So find the money that we have already that's unfunded, that's unfilled. Finance, you got it?
Mr. Chairman, and the final part of my update is, Mr. Cormier, my office has been inundated with phone calls all week regarding that drainage, that project that's going on right there in front of Grand Bayou on Highway 23. They have the entrance or the exit part of the Grand Bayou folks. If they want to exit north, they have to travel almost 3 miles south before they can come back north. And the same thing opposite, if they're coming from south to come north, they have to go all the way back up to almost to West Pont-LaHash to come back down to Grand Bayou. So it appears that it's a problem. And then the biggest concern there is right where 23 meet Grand Bayou, there is no construction going on at all. So why inconvenience the folks to that extreme? So I'm asking that maybe administration can call the Department of Transportation and kind of give them a egress and ingress there.
I'm glad you brought that up. I spoke with Reverend Ancor this morning, and as we spoke this morning, the police's obstacles were being removed so that the people could get back there, and that's part of that $25 million that's going on in your district, and so it's progress, and we apologize for any delay or inconvenience that might have taken place, but that has been already secured.
Appreciate it, Mr. President.
You finished, Mr. Shelby?
Yes, thank you.
All right, we'll move to item 7D, has been deferred. We'll move to item 8, Approve of the minutes for the November 17, 2015 budget hearings and December 10th, 2015 council meeting. I'll offer, ask for a second. Okay, offer by Ms. Edgecombe, second by Ms. Williams. Okay. Machine is open on the minutes. And the minutes are granted 7-0. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mr. Russo, second by Ms. Williams. Machine is open on adjournment. And, okay. We are adjourned at 5:46.